Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. I don't know why I'm yelling, sorry. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 7:02 p.m. and this is the regular meeting of the Kaneland Board of Education. We would like to inform all board meeting attendees that this meeting is being live streamed and archived for access at any time by our community members on the internet within 24 to 48 hours of the meeting's conclusion. At this time, we'll ask Mr. McCauley to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And a roll call, please.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Here.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Here.
Mr. Kleisner.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Mr. McCauley.
Here.
Mrs. Simmons. Here. Dr. Lawler.
Here. Dr. Lawler will be joining us virtually per board policy. I believe it's 220. He's able to do that. So, okay. With 7 members present, we have a quorum. Is there anything the board would like to move from consent to new business?
I would like to have number 6 move to new business.
Okay. H6, approval of bid for snow removal. We need a consensus for that, or we can just proceed?
No, you need to vote.
Okay. We need a vote.
A vote.
A vote. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I guess then we'll need a roll call to, or a motion. Yeah. Can we get a motion?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler. Miss. Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. We are going to move consent agenda item H6 to, it'll now be J6, correct?
That is correct.
We're going to move it to the end of the new business agenda. So it'll be now J6. Okay. So then I still need to approve it as presented, right? Or is that good enough?
As amended.
Okay, yeah. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
And a roll call, please.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Okay. Agenda is approved as amended, 7-0. It's now time for the board/superintendent salutes. Dr.
Alrighty.
Fuchs.
Great, thank you. We have a great night of salutes planned. The high school athletic director and principal are here, and Mr. Rollman will be presenting all of the information from the winter athletics and activities. Mr. Rollman, please join us.
Thank you, Dr. Fuchs, board. It's my pleasure to bring forth our winter sports teams that are here. We're just going to go through them real quickly. They'll come up. Some of our students are going to address the board as well. A couple of quick things I want to share with you about winter. There are 10 IHSA sports. Let me back up. There are 9 IHSA sports in the fall. There are 10 in the winter, and Kaneland participates in all 19 of those. We had just under 300 athletes this winter. We actually ended up with 2, not 1, but 2 coaches of the year. One of them is here in Coach Colomb. The other one is Brian Clayson, our girls varsity basketball coach. He's busy coaching softball out in or baseball out in LaSalle, Peru this evening. So far in this school year, 23-24, we've had 862 student athletes participate at Kaneland High School out of approximately 1,330, Dr. Horn, something like that. So our participation rates continue to be very high. Awesome. So with that, I would like to bring boys basketball and Mr. Bradley Frank up.
Hello, I'm Bradley Frank. I'm a senior on the varsity basketball team. Just a few things, some team accomplishments. Our team went 26-6, which tied our school record for most wins in a season. We were the Interstate 8 Conference champions. Hoops for Healing, second place in that tournament. Plano Classic champions, regional champions, and we made it to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 1982. A few of individual accomplishments. We had Interstate 8 All-Conference honorable mention, Evan Frieders, Interstate 8 All-Conference, Troyer Carlson, and Parker Violet, who did that for the third time in their careers, and then Freddie Hassan for the first time. Our Plano Classic All-Tournament team, Troyer Carlson for the third time, and Freddie Hassan was the tournament MVP. Our Offensive Player of the Year was Troyer Carlson. Our Defensive Player of the Year was Freddie Hassan and myself. Our Most Improved was Evan Frieders, Jeff Hassan, and Isaiah Gibson. Our Mr. Kaneland was Parker Violet and Troyer Carlson. And along with Troyer Carlson, he became our school's all-time leading scorer, scoring 1,588 points. And Troyer Carlson also was a All-State honorable mention. And then, like Mr. Rollman said, Coach Cologne was our Coach of the Year. So, good season.
Hi, good evening. My name is Betsy Leckband, and I'm the head cheerleading coach at the high school. I first and foremost wanted to thank the board for approving my job here, and I really appreciate you allowing me to work with this group of athletes. So thank you. Before I hand over the season highlights to our athletes, I did want to briefly outline our sport. All of our competitions are tournament-like, so we're never against just one opponent. Kaneland is in the medium varsity division based on school size, and that is the most competitive of the divisions. Cheer judging is comparative scoring, and it's based on 8 different categories, as well as execution in 4 of those 8 categories. Cheer can only compete in a max of 6 times during the regular season, with conference being included in one of those comps. It makes for a very, very busy January. For the IHSA State Series, sectionals are assigned randomly into 5 different competitions, all on the same day. Only the top 5 teams per division move on to the state finals. So I'm going to hand it over to my girls.
Hi, my name is Gianna Walgren.
I'm Maddie Taylor. We are both seniors this year, 4-year veterans on the cheerleading team. Thank you so much for inviting us.
We are very happy to be here. We want to start with the biggest success of the season and talk about briefly how we got there. So for the very first time in school history, we qualified for the IHSA State Cheerleading Finals.
We started 2024 with a big, scoring 86.75, earning second place out of 10 teams. This was a new record for our school program. We are also earned second place at conference, beating Rochelle, Ottawa, Sycamore, and LaSalle Peru, with another record of 90.03 before deduction.
We were on the road to state. We were super hungry for it. One of the things that makes Cheer so unique is that every single person on the mat has a job, and without just one person, we can't do our own jobs. And it truly is a really, really huge team sport.
Our coaches set us up for success by jam-packing our routine with skills to fill our score sheet, making us wake up at 4 a.m. for cheer practice, fatiguing our bodies and strengthening our minds. Little did we know that this would all pay off when it mattered. For sectionals, we were nervous at the competition, but we were ready. We were happy and confident. We worked together to make it happen. We performed our routine of our lives, hitting all of our stunts, completing all of our tumbling, jumping as high as we could, and performing like we were on TV. Awards were like a dream. They announced the top 5 teams moving on to the IHSA State Finals, and Kaneland was one of them.
So state was less than a week later. We needed to make sure that we got practice in, filled our bodies, rested, and did school too. But we did it. We were super excited. Our families and coaches made a big deal out of it for us. Our whole bus was decorated and everything. It was actually kind of crazy. And of course, our awesome administration put together a walk of champions. We took it in the whole experience and loved every minute of it. The competition was super tough and really draining, but we knew it would be. Just qualifying for state was enough for us. The coaches wanted us to have a goal, though, as a team, so we decided that we wanted to try and beat 10 teams. We didn't really quite reach that goal, but we were close. We beat 7 teams, so we are proud to say that Kaneland is the top 18 in the state of Illinois.
Having been in the program for all 4 years, it is really special to see how much the program can improve. Even in just 1 year, we set records for the school thanks to our families, coaches, and teammate support. If it wasn't for our coaches, I don't think we would have made it as far as we did this year. Their dedication inspired us to stay dedicated and try our absolute hardest throughout the season. Since this is my senior year, I'm so happy and proud to have gotten so far. This may be our best season yet, but this is only the beginning for our cheer program.
This season was built with so many new experience. We had a brand new coach, still a newer coach, super new teammates, new rules, and new journeys. We accomplished more this season alone than we have any other season in history. And this team will forever be the one that made history and be the most memorable team that Kaneland Cheer has ever seen. And I'm forever grateful to be part of it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Olivia Cairns, and this was my first year as the assistant coach for the gymnastics team. I was on the gymnastics team for 3 years prior to coaching. I coached the team with my sister, Alexis Cairns. This was her 3rd season of the Kaneland gymnastics team as the coach. Today I have Casey Randall with me, and she has been on the gymnastics team for 3 years. I'll go ahead and let her talk about the details about her last season.
Hi, I'm Casey Randall, and I'm a senior. The gymnastics team has had a very successful season this year, thanks in a large part to our coaches. Our coaches have put in countless hours for our program, and they're volunteers, so they're unpaid. We are so grateful for them, and we would not be as good as we are without them. The team had 5 members this year: Alina DeBeck, Kaylee Rakoff, Haley Gianetto, and myself. 3 of the gymnasts were seniors this year, so we are very excited to be able to host our senior night where we practice, which is at Aurora Turner's. The theme was pink out, and we were able to go against Batavia gymnastics team, which was very exciting because a lot of the members on that team we practiced with in the off season. Throughout the season, we had 8 meets, 3 of which we had gymnast Playson, Ella, the one I forgot, a freshman, placed in 2 meets, getting 5th and 7th, and Kaylee got 1st all around at our last regular season meet. First all around. Additionally, in the postseason, this is the 2nd year we've had gymnasts qualify for sectionals. Last year, me and Liv qualified for sectionals, and this year I qualified for beam. It was such a great experience to be able to compete among so many great gymnasts, and just watching them compete was just crazy. Being a small team, we just formed like a very small or close bond that is you just can't replicate with a big team. So I'm very grateful for that. The dedication everyone has for the team, as we have to pay for our own meet fees, our own Leos, warm-ups, provide our own transportation as an unsanctioned sport, is admirable. I'm so grateful for this team, and I'm gonna miss them all so much next year. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sarah Ray. I am the head boys bowling coach and a teacher at Kaneland High School. This was my 3rd year coaching the boys bowling team, and these 2 boys that I have here, this was their 3rd year on the team, so we've kind of been through this journey together, so it was a very good journey. This season, we actually ended our time together. It was the best season that we've had as a bowling team. We came 3rd in conference over LaSalle. 2nd at the conference tournament. 2nd at the conference tournament, but 3rd overall. Okay. Yeah, so, okay, thank you. Yes, 2nd at the conference tournament, 3rd overall. The 5 teams in our conference, we have Sycamore, LaSalle, Peru, us, Ottawa, and Rochelle. So when we came 3rd in conference overall, we beat Ottawa and LaSalle, Peru. These 2 boys were actually like 2 of the best bowlers on the team this season. Jack made it to sectionals, and Nick and Jack both became all conference bowlers during the conference tournament. So I'll go ahead and let them talk about their season.
And then this is our senior year. I'm Nick Bingley. That's Jack Bingley. This year's been really fun, especially her being our coach. She's like probably the best coach that I've had with doing bowling out of school.
Thanks.
And just being able to compete with him all the time has been really fun for this season because we would always like try and match each other's scores up, and especially with the rest of our team too. We're not nearly as prepared as the other teams that are here, but I just want to say our season was really fun. It was really good to make a connection with our team and to bowl with them, and I hope that they continue bowling throughout the rest of their year.
Hello, my name is Josh West. I have the privilege of doing the boys and girls wrestling teams. I'll start with the boys, coached by Kenny Paoli. They were 27-11 as a dual team, which is the second most wins in school history. They had three all-conference wrestlers: Angelina Goches, Cameron Scholl, and Alex Goches. Kyle Rogers and Caden Vanek were all-conference honorable mention. Three sectional qualifiers: Cameron Scholl, Alex Goches, and Apollo Goches. One state qualifier in Cameron Scholl, and one state place winner, 5th place in Cameron Scholl. Our girls team, I'm the current head coach of the girls team. We were 8-3 as a team. 3rd place at regionals out of 45 teams. 3rd place at sectionals out of roughly 70 teams. 1 point away from 2nd. And we finished 12th as a team at the state tournament, and 15 points away from top 3 finish in the state. We had 3 all-conference wrestlers: Deani Torres, Sadie Kinsella, and Chloe Cervantes. Sectional qualifiers were Angelina Goches, Deani Torres, Sadie Kinsella, Carly Duffing, Brooklyn Schaefer, and Chloe Cervantes. State qualifiers were Angelina Goches and Brooklyn Schaefer, and we had one state place winner, Angelina Goches, who was a state champion. It was a huge success, and it was a lot of fun to be a part of. So thank you for your time.
Good to go.
All right, I'm Michael Semino here on behalf of the girls basketball team. Coach of the year, Brian Clayson, couldn't make it, so they just send me in his place. I'm the varsity assistant. I have with me Kendra Brown and Alexis Schuler. I'm gonna let them do most of the talking, but before they do, I just want to recognize them as our 2 team leaders. They're going to talk about the success of the team, but they won't talk much about themselves, so I will. 2 all-conference players, all-area players. Kendra was honorable mention all-state. Alexis is playing in college at Benedictine, and Kendra scored 1,000th point this year. So not only are they incredible players, but great leaders, and really for myself and Brian Clayson to take over the program last year, they have played an incredible foundation for us as we move forward with this. So I want to give them some credit before they talk about the season. So.
Hello, I'm Alexis, and I'm a senior here. And I just want to start with some non-basketball positive things. And first of all, we raised over $6,000 at the Hoops for a Cure tournament, and we won the game that night, so that was obviously a great end to that night. And then we had a lot of more like community support this year, and we pulled a lot more like students into our games and a lot other fans to come watch, and a lot of that is due to the boys basketball team. They supported us a lot this year.
Our record throughout the season was 25-10. In our conference, we ended up in 2nd place.
We lost to Sycamore in conference, but then we ended up persevering and we beat them in the regional championship. And then from there, we made a Sweet 16 appearance for the 6th time in school history.
We also had so with goals and also other teammates, we had Emily Kunzer. She got Defensive Player of the Year. Lexi got Miss Kaneland, as that's like the team captain and most positive on the team. All contributed to the basketball. As Semino said, I got Offensive BP, and Berlin, Maddie, and Abby got Miss Hustle. Kira got Most Improved.
And then Coach Clayson got Coach of the Year. So, yeah.
Well, as you can see, we're very successful. We continue to be very successful. It is an honor to lead this group. Coaches and athletes, there's only a handful of them here today. Like I said, we had over 300 kids just in the winter alone. There are a lot of people behind the scenes that make it a very successful school, athletically speaking. When you step into the gymnasium at Kaneland High School the next time, you'll see that we have updated all of our championship banners with their conference wins, their sectional wins, et cetera. I want to give a shout out to Brian Aversa and Andy Drendel for all their work and working with Sign Effects to get that done. I also cannot do this alone, so Stephanie Douglas, our administrative assistant, and while John Pavlak stepped down during the winter to watch his own daughter and son play, Brock Feast, who's our assistant band director, stepped up and did an excellent job as the assistant athletic director as well. So we have tremendous support within the administration and staff at Kaneland High School and of course around the community. So we continue to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunities and we will continue to work hard for you. Thank you.
Well, I feel like I can speak on behalf of the board in saying thank you to the coaches, parents, administration, and the athletes. You guys make us proud, and so it just makes me so happy to stand up here and hear these accolades. And you all did great presenting, way better than I ever would have. So good job, and I appreciate it. Or we appreciate it. Forget. With that being said, the board appreciates everyone in attendance this evening and invites you to stay as we move into the new business part of the meeting. We understand that not everyone is able to stay for the entire meeting, and we wanted to make sure you know that this is an open meeting, so you're able to come and go as you please. We look forward to seeing you at future meetings, and again, thank you all for coming out, and thanks for all you do. We appreciate it. It's great seeing this. It filled my heart with joy, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
yeah. Yep. Okay, tonight's consent agenda contains the following information. We have the action items, approval of the treasurer's report, March 2024, approval of the minutes from the March 11th, 2024 regular meeting, approval of personnel, approval of destruction of audio recordings from the closed session meetings from October 2022, approval of bid for disposal and recycling services, approval of bid for fire inspection systems, approval of bid for copy paper, approval of authorization to submit consolidated district plan, approval to amend the 2024-2025 school calendar, approval of revisions to the Mid-Valley Special Education Cooperative Articles of Agreement, and then the following informational items: 2023 final tax extension report, the student suspension data report, field trip notification, the Freedom of Information Act report, and to amend the school calendar for the 2023-2024 school year. At this point, I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items listed.
So moved.
Second. And a roll call, please.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Consent agenda has been approved. 7-0. Okay. So we will move forward to public comments. Do we have a sign-up sheet? Oh, thank you. Forgive me, sorry. It's usually yellow. Okay, we use the public comment section as an opportunity to listen to our stakeholders. The board does not debate or engage in conversation during this time. I'd like to remind everyone to state your name and village of residence for the record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Public comment is a maximum of 30 minutes with a 20-minute total length of time for any one subject. Those who speak are asked to maintain a tone of courtesy and civility. And again, we're going to keep it to 30 seconds. We're going to keep it to 3 minutes. So I will be, in no disrespect, not trying to be rude, but just to stay consistent with everybody, we're going to keep it to those 3 minutes. So I'll be interrupting you if you go beyond. So at this time, we will call the first one. Ralph Drendel.
My name is Ralph Drendel and I live in Elburn. It's been 4 weeks since the last board meeting and even longer since one of our students broke his hand because of the condition of our track. And yet tonight's agenda shows nothing about the track. you are running out of time to revisit your vote from last summer when you decided to fix parking lots and ignore the track, an issue that directly affects our students. The KHS administration and coaches have been begging for track maintenance since 2007. Since 2013, it even was recommended on 4 different budgets, yet somehow it got pushed back year after year for 17 years. That's negligence. To me, the worst thing that you did was to resurface a 9-year-old track at the middle school who must have had 500 people on it tonight, which was awesome. In 2018, I moved to the high school track to the 2019 budget, and it still didn't get done. How does this happen? You, the board, need to keep asking questions. Why hasn't the track been resurfaced since 1997? Somebody has to know the answer to that. The district administration have known since 2007 that maintenance needed to be done. Why hasn't it been done? Why isn't there some urgency about fixing it now? Our kids can't even compete on their home track. Thank you, West Aurora, if Jason's here tonight. One of our kids broke his hand. The track is literally falling apart and nothing is being done. Are you really going to ignore this, and why? Have you been out to the track to see it in person? And if you haven't, why not? You don't need to know anything about a track to see that our track is a mess. If you walk on Kesslinger or you walk on Meredith, that's what our track looks like. Please, this is the kids we're talking about, not parking lots. Lately, every time the track maintenance comes up, the word referendum is mentioned. If you think that the deteriorated track is going to help you pass a referendum, good luck. You have lost the trust of the Kaneland community.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, next up we have Alex Crocker.
Hello, I'm Alex Crocker. I've spoken at a couple of other board meetings before. I'm from Sugar Grove, and I'm an 8th grader at Kipla. I really encourage you to make a decision tonight. I have been quite anxious about this because it's a decision that affects me directly. It affects my future. It affects quite a lot of my life. And though I'd really hope that you expand to high school, I also would also be I would also accept an answer of no. I'd just like it to be tonight because there's only 7 weeks left of the school year. I need time to talk with my teachers about how next year is going to go. I need time to plan for this. I thank you for opening this school, and thank you for taking the time to consider this decision. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next up, we have Sheila Albano.
Sheila Albano, Kaneland, everything. I'll get to that another time. I'm from Elburn. Young lady that was brilliant wherever you went. I am so proud of you. And I am so sorry that you have been put in this position. And this is what we said at the last board meeting. This should never have happened. The planning should have been there and they should know, and it's not. And I'm taking up this time I wrote to tell you what a fantastic job you just did. So well done. Last meeting, it was said that the focus has to be on academics rather than cost. Would like to know, however, what determines the effectiveness of academics and how much cost is acceptable and how much is too much. If you add a freshman level, how can you not add on to that every year after that? You're going to tell them next year that they only got 1 year and never anymore. and it's currently about 7 students you're going to do this for. When will the principal that you want to hire not be enough to cover the duties as an educational leader and the classroom support services that don't exist now? Is that going to be next year? So you're going to add a principal because Mrs. Garland can't do both jobs, but you still don't have support system. He's supposed to do the support system and be the principal. So if next year you come back and be like, you know what, he couldn't handle that either. Now we need the support systems like the behavioral coordinators and the things that your HR director had on his list. Are the academics for less than 100 kids more important than those of hundreds or 1,000, depending on the school? How many social workers could you add in place of that principal? What about the additional psychologists that you're not adding at the high school? What are Mrs. Garland's responsibilities going to be now, and will her pay be reduced because she isn't doing both jobs? None of this has been told to any of us. Why do you need to keep bus the kids from one school to the other? When my son was in 8th grade, they had to walk to the high school to get the advanced math classes. Nobody bused them, except in really bad weather. Your athletic activities, your director who was just here, he is the athletic director, the activities director, the building and grounds director, and he approves your paraprofessionals. No one's ever taken those responsibilities and split them up. That's been going on for years and years and years. Why aren't we getting him some help? I am upset as a taxpayer that I don't know the answers to any of these, and from talking to several of you, you don't either. So I'm so sorry that this building was put in so poorly, but to continue to make those mistakes is tantamount to negligence. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, next up we have Jennifer Crocker.
I'm Jennifer Crocker from Sugar Grove, talking about Kipla. So first I wanted to say thank you to all of the board members for hearing us out about Kipla. I don't have much to add. We've been talking about this for 3 months, other than I really hope you make a decision tonight. We're very much hoping that the answer is yes, but a decision is what we really want. Because we've been stuck in limbo for 3 months now, and let me tell you, it's not fun. Sorry. So, sorry, I'm just, we've sent many parent emails, lots of comments over the last multiple meetings, and you guys have discussed this for hours during these meetings, and I hope that you remember, even though it's been a month since the last time we talked about it, all the positive benefits that we've talked about, that we haven't had a single parent that has a kid at Kipla have a negative thing to say about it, that we're all loving it that much. So yeah, please vote yes.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, last up we have Lara Ekstrom.
Hi, I'm Lara Ekstrom. I live in Virgil Village, and I'm going to talk about Kipla as well. Again, like everybody said, just thank you for hearing us out. Thank you for taking everything into consideration. We really appreciate the board and what you're doing and how you're trying to understand what's going on and how we can make this right for everybody. I think at this point, all of us really just want a decision made. I know that we were hoping to have a decision at last meeting, and we're excited that you're still interested in the topic, but we kind of just want to have a decision be made at least for next school year. And I also want to encourage the board to look at the following school year as well. Maybe you don't have to make a decision on that tonight, but I think that decision needs to be made sooner than later. because we don't want to have history repeat itself and have this happen again next year. And then I also want to encourage the board to think about even further out. Do we want to just say we're never going to run a high school? We're never going to have enough kids. It's never going to make fiscal sense, because all the parents and students who have kids at the school deserve to make the decision with all the information. And if the high school is never going to run because you don't think it's a good fiscally responsible thing, then all the parents and the students deserve to have an educated decision-making process. And I know for my family personally, it would not change our decision to send our kids there for through 8th grade. It might change what we do after the fact. We may not come to Kaneland High School. We may go somewhere else. But we all want a decision made. And I don't want to continue to see families go through this year after year. We do have a huge 6th grade class of 30 students, but if we continue to run the program like this and make decisions the way they've been made, you're going to lose those students too, because they're not going to have the confidence that high school is going to run. So I just want you guys to think about everything and make an informed decision, and don't just think about next year, think about all the years, so that we don't have to continue to go through this roller coaster ride. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, that concludes the public comment section of the meeting. So at this time, we'll proceed into new business. And the first item of new business is the approval of the resolution authorizing honorable reduction in force of the specific educational support personnel. Dr. Fuchs.
Thank you. This is an annual agenda item that we need to take care of with regard to our support personnel. And I'd like to ask Dr. Atkins to please share the information. Thank you. And then please stay up there for agenda item number 2.
Thank you. And as we shared with the board in March at the minimum staffing plan, the support staff component has historically come at this next meeting. So we're here tonight to talk about support staff, specifically our paraprofessional staff. Annually, we look at IEP needs, student needs, one-on-one needs, all through special education to determine how many paraprofessionals we would need in the following year. We then match that against the current existing number of paraprofessionals we have, and if we're over, we do need to reduce and enforce. I want to make a couple of historical observations about that process. First of all, it is just like the reduction in force we had to do with our certified staff. It's an honorable reduction in force. The staff involved tonight are doing very good work for us. They're a valuable commodity for us with our students. They make a difference. It is just simply a factor of timing and budgeting for next year. So again, it's an honorable reduction in force. These staff members are not being released for anything to do with performance. So that's the first piece. The second historical piece is about the timing. The timing is off. We do this at this point in the year due to state law. However, right now, simultaneously is also the season where we are doing annual reviews for our IEP students for next year. So as quickly as we reduce and force our support staff, we typically are rehiring again right away. We've been very blessed in this district to be able to hire back almost all of our paraprofessionals that we release each year. And when I say almost all, the ones that we typically aren't able to rehire back are ones who have either found employment somewhere else or who are waiting to get their own classrooms as certified teachers and move on to become teachers. So we've been very fortunate to be able to recall most, if not all, of our support staff each year when this occurs. After reviewing all of the data, all of the IEP needs, all of the student needs, we are overstaffed by 3 FTE. Those 3 people would be the probationary teachers that have recently been hired. They do, just like certified staff, have recall rights for a year. I met with all of them last week in person, along with Sue Sensor, our union president for the support staff union, and Tony Millay, our UNISERV director from IEA, to explain what their rights and what the district obligations are for them, so they know what to expect. And tonight's resolution is to approve that reduction in force. They will be notified in person tomorrow by their administrator, and then via U.S. regular mail and U.S. certified mail in accordance with the law. And then we're monitoring on a daily, weekly basis about whether or not we will be adding those staff Again, historically, we have done that each and every year. So it's typically only a matter of time before we're able to recall those staff back to Kaneland. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Atkins.
Any questions, any discussion?
Quick question. Can we forward that information to Mid, about these personnel to Mid Valley, who may be, or that be up to the individuals?
We can. Typically, we do not need to because their timing is our timing as well, and we're
Right.
recalling our staff.
Okay.
So, and I wouldn't want Mid Valley to hire somebody to then be recalled.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have had some interplay between Mid Valley staff, support staff, and Kaneland support
Let's
staff.
make them aware of the opportunities. Yeah, got it. Okay.
Absolutely. That was part of our conversation when we met with them last week about networking. Please access us, let us help you, that kind of thing, keep you in communication with one another.
Okay.
Further discussion? Dr. Lawler?
No, not at this time.
Okay. With no further discussion being warranted, I will entertain a motion that the Board of Education approve the resolution authorizing honorable reduction in force of the specific educational support personnel. So,
Second.
and a roll call, please.
Mr. Cook,
Aye.
Mr. McCauley,
Aye.
Dr. Lawler,
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky,
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner,
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons,
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye. The resolution authorizing the honorable reduction in force of the specific educational support service is approved 7-0. Support personnel, excuse me, was approved 7-0. The second item of new business is the approval of the additional 2.0 FTE for an occupational therapist and a speech language therapist for the 2024-2025 school year.
All right, thank you. Again, in March, the minimum staffing plan, one of the pieces we talk about it with it being a minimum staffing plan is it's just that. It is the bare minimum we know at that point in time, knowing that the process to evaluate student needs continues on, doesn't ever stop. And one of the things that has happened since our minimum staffing plan is the evaluation of students and their entitlement for occupational and speech therapy services. So much so that we do need to add an additional occupational therapist and speech language pathologist to our roles. So we have had prior board members ask us, is this a want to or a have to? This is a have to. This is something that we are compelled to provide. Students are entitled to these services through their IEP. It's a legal requirement for the district to provide these services via these certified staff. So we are here tonight to have the board approve these staff. Please know at the end of the memo, we talk about the budgetary impact because that's another piece the board would want to know. We did bring a minimum staffing plan that was just under the budgeted $300,000. These two additional staff would put us over that budgeted amount. So we are over what we had budgeted for our staff for the following year. But again, it's a have to. This isn't a want to. Additionally, we've had prior questions from the board that I'll just answer up front. Do we need more? No, we do not. This is the correct amount of staff for what we know of today. We are monitoring enrollment at our elementaries, our middle schools, our high schools, as we do every year. And if we have any of those other needs, like we are doing today, we'll bring them to the board for discussion. And we'll make sure it's clear at that time as well, whether it's a need to or a want to or prefer to or a recommendation. So with that said, this is that need to. We must do this to maintain compliance with the students' entitlements. So any questions from the board?
For these two new employees, they cover the whole district, all the different schools?
Correct.
Okay. So they don't have a, they don't have like a home.
varied caseload.
Got it. Okay.
And this is strictly for Kaneland, not, there's not gonna be any overlap with Mid Valley?
I do not believe so, and I'm gonna find Mrs. X. Yeah, no, this is only Kaneland students.
For our kids, okay.
Correct, only Kaneland students.
Good luck finding the OT. No, it's.
Any other questions?
So I know you covered this, but we're talking 57,000 that we're going over budgetarily, right? Based on what you've provided. Traditionally, we're still early. I mean, I know you can't predict the future, but do you anticipate? I mean, traditionally, this is the extent of it, or
I have no way of knowing. The right number of houses sell in the right subdivision at a single school and a single grade with students in a single grade level could push it one way or the other. And we talk about this in the minimum staffing plan, that enrollment changes and programmatic changes don't necessarily happen in nice, neat little pockets. They happen across the district. So we may have an influx of 60 kids and you go, wow, at 20 to 1 or 22 to 1 or 24 to 1, that's X number of teachers. But if they're equally distributed across the district, it may actually be able for us to absorb that with current FTE. However, likewise, if you get 8 kids in one grade at one school, that might push us over. So it's too difficult to give you an answer like that, but that is why we monitor those things on a weekly basis from now through the start of the school year.
and there's no additional state funding. It's basically just comes out of our deficit, the overage.
That's correct. We'll get a little bit of funding for each of these employees, but I think it's only $8,000 per employee. So it'll be 16.
So the budget overage is considering that then?
This is over the budget overage.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
It's already considering the 8,000 we do get from the state.
Yes.
Oh, goodness.
To build on Mr. Mankivski's correct observation about the occupational therapist, please know these are two very specialized positions, and $60,000 is a placeholder that we use, which is an average of what we spend on most of our certified staff. These particular certified staff may very well be much more than 60,000 each, but until we know, we don't know. So that's why we use the placeholder. It could very well be that a given employee is significantly more than that based on their experience and their certification and the hard to fill nature of the role.
Is any of this due to an IDEA count increase?
It's due to their IEP student
Right.
services, yeah.
But do we have an increase in our child count? We do. There is, okay, so this is because of an increase in the IDEA child count.
Increase of students
Yeah.
qualifying
Yeah.
and the services that they need.
Right, right. But no real significant IDEA funds, correct? Other than the capitation. Yeah,
So what would be the high-end salary?
What are the next steps? So if we can't find somebody for these positions, and then,
Contract services.
okay, and then once we find out, there are potential people and they have a certain amount, what's the next steps for that? Do you come back to us? Is it approved? What?
No, the approval tonight would give us the authority to hire and to do what we would need to do in terms of the salary for those hires. Contract services, just so you know, are significantly more expensive. We're talking 6 figures to do for a year of contract services for any one of these types of services. So even though comparatively to a first year graduate salary, we might very well pay what would be comparably more. It will still be significantly less than if we were not to fill it, because we're still obligated to provide the services to the child. So we'd have to contract with an outside agency to provide those services, and that is something we try to avoid because of the cost involved with it. It's significant cost to go to contract services.
And we're not dealing with a huge pool of potential applicants, are we? Especially not for the OT. Maybe the SLP might be a little bit more generous, but
We're working on it. We got
reality
irons
is
in the
what reality
fire.
is, yeah.
So is it safe to say this is a conservative estimate? I mean,
I would say so. Yes, very much so.
so we're probably looking at, there's no crystal ball, but odds are this is, a conservative amount. We're probably going to look at more.
That's a fair statement.
So this recommendation is only to say, yes, go ahead and hire 2 people, whatever cost it is.
Correct.
Within the description, it says 60,000 is the conservative cost, but it is up to your discretion if we need to spend more.
Yeah, and we have to give you a placeholder,
Mhm.
and so our historical placeholder has been that $60,000. You hear that from Dr. Fuchs when we talk about the budget in the fall. You hear that throughout our budget conversations. You'll hear that throughout our staffing conversations. But again, that additional cost for a veteran with a highly specialized certification is offset by the recent graduate first year teacher with
Right.
just a baccalaureate. So, as much as we may pay more for that specialized experience and service, we might pay then comparatively less for that new hire that's right out of college.
Well, and as I understand it, to your point, Board Member Simmons, we don't have a choice, right? Like,
Right.
they could come back and ask us, but
Yeah.
it's a compliance, it's a matter of compliance, and so we don't have a choice. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
And these would be part of the speak unit,
No, the OT
the OT?
would not be part of KEA, but the SLP would be, and it's about the certifications that they hold.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Questions, comments? Dr. Lawler?
Thank you.
Okay. With no further discussion, I will, forgive me, sorry. I will entertain a motion that the Board of Education approve an additional 2.0 FTE for an occupational therapist and a speech language therapist for the 2024-2025 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. McCauley,
Aye.
Dr. Lawler, Mr. Mankowski,
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner,
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons,
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. The additional 2.0 FTE for an occupational therapist and speech language therapist for 2024-2025 school year is approved.
Thank you, Dr. Atkins.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Atkins. Okay, at this time, we're going to move on to the third item of new business, the Ignite 9 through 12 expansion recommendation. Dr. Fuchs.
At the March board meeting, the board requested that the administration bring back 4 options to review regarding the expansion of the Kaneland Ignite Personalized Learning Academy to 9th through 12th grade. We are doing that tonight. Tonight you have Mrs. Garland, our current Kipla principal, and Mr. Raleigh, our Director of Educational Services, 6 through 12. Similar to some of the public comments, it is our recommendation that the board make a decision tonight, one way or the other, as we are getting late into the school year. The administration's recommendation tonight is to delay the expansion for the 24-25 school year. I would like to review that the fact, the options of Plan B, C, and D had all been previously explored prior to the request from the board. And so therefore, with that, I'll let Mrs. Garland share the options and how it meets or does not meet each option, the tenets of the personalized learning. Thank you.
Okay, so actually, Mr. Raleigh, in just a few minutes, we'll be going through those 4 options. What I'm here to address tonight is really to answer one of the primary questions that was asked the last time the topic came up, and that was, is it really the environment at Kipla that is different and unique from traditional schools, or is it the way that we approach curriculum? And the answer to that truly is that it's both. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what we mean by that, how we're similar and how we're different. And so first of all, it is important to note, and we've said this every time we've come up, personalized learning is a Kaneland philosophy. So it is something that's infused in all of our Kaneland schools. The primary difference between Kipla and our other schools is that we've removed traditional structures of schooling. So in all of our traditional schools, we run more content-based courses. We run within a bell schedule. We have one teacher primarily, unless we have a co-teacher in that room. A lot of those structures are just different at Kipla. And so I'll talk a little bit about how that's different. Personalized learning, the other thing that's important to know is there is no formula for personalized learning. It truly is a combination of tenets. As personalized learning emerged within education, every initiative, every grant, every federal, private organization that really was designed to support the implementation of learner-centered instruction was done with the understanding that districts needed autonomy, they needed flexibility, and they needed to understand their own local context when creating a program of personalized learning. So we often get asked, where else are they doing this exact thing? And the answer really is nowhere. Personalized learning is uniquely designed for every district that seeks to implement strategies that put students in more of a seat of ownership in their own learning. So that's an important thing to know. It's a district-wide vision, and it's truly one that we designed over multiple years to meet the needs of our district. And so it is a Kaneland decision to infuse it across the district and then create an academy where we could truly go beyond what's capable of being done within a traditional school. Within Ignite Academy, environmentally, some of the key differences is that we don't run based on chronological age-based groupings. And so in a traditional school, most of your third graders are around the same age. Your fourth graders are the same age. At Kipla, we run 2 multi-age sections. And so we have third through fifth graders in one section that we call Inspire, and sixth through eighth graders in a second section we call Empower. Those students learn together, they interact together, they move along learning continuums. And so again, we don't present just sixth grade, primarily sixth grade instruction to sixth graders, primarily third grade instruction to third graders. Students move along learning continuums, and they access instruction for whatever standards they're working on at the level they happen to need for that standard. So it's not uncommon for us to have some students who might be working on 2 fourth grade standards, a fifth grade standard, and maybe the majority sixth grade standards. It's very much based on where they happen to fall. If we have a student who's working on a grade level standard but is needing some foundational support, they can also be working on a standard outside of what would be considered their chronological grade level standard. We do not have a bell schedule at all, which gives us complete flexibility within a day, across a week, across a month. So our students are able, we have a schedule that in general we follow, but if a student is really invested in an activity that they're working on within ELA or within math, we can expand that schedule, allow them more time, maybe within 1 week to complete some ELA standards, shorten up math 1 week, flip it the next. We don't have to stay to the same bell schedule every single day. So when we have a student who just might not be available for learning that day and has a really important assessment that they're working to show their teacher's proficiency, we can move that within their day, we can move that within their week. We don't have to have all of our students take the same assessment on the same day. And part of that is also due to our assessment structures. Our students don't all necessarily take the same assessments. They have a lot of autonomy to work with their teachers to decide, I'm ready to demonstrate proficiency on this standard. Here's how I would like to do that. Or it might even be, I'm not quite sure how I want to show you that I know this. Can we conference about that? Our co-constructed conferences are a district-wide focus, and that is very similar at Kipla. Students don't simply meet with their teacher to be told what their next steps in learning are or to be told exactly where their strengths and opportunities lie. The students have the tools to engage in those conversations. So we are using the same proficiency tables that are used district-wide. Our students bring those to their conferences with teachers, and they use what's identified on those tables as indicators of proficiency to talk with their teachers about these 2 indicators. I'm feeling very strong and here's my evidence. These indicators, either I'm confused and need more direct instruction, or perhaps I can already do all of those. Can I show you this to allow me to move to a more elevated standard? So those co-constructed conferences are crucial for us to know and students to know exactly where they are and where they're moving. And so again, the co-constructed conferencing concept is a district-wide philosophy because of our lack of bell schedule, because of our fluidity between content areas. We're able to meet with our students almost every day for those conferences, which is a bit of a unique opportunity that we have. Overall, our student population across the building is smaller. It's not accurate to say that we have smaller class sizes. Our class sizes, our per teacher student ratio within a class is similar across the district. Our building itself has fewer students. So when students are transitioning through our building, they're transitioning with approximately 100 other students, as compared to a traditional school would range more between 400 to 800 students, sometimes more, that they would be transitioning the hallways with. And so that feeling is much smaller because of our overall smaller student population. We also have full-time co-teaching, particularly in our Inspire section. All of our 3rd through 5th graders have 2 core teachers that instruct them all day. And so that's one of our only sections across the district that has 2 full-time teachers with double the students in the room. And so again, they have the fluidity and flexibility to have a larger number of students move between 2 teachers in a much larger space. I did mention in terms of so those are some of the environmental things. Curricularly, we do use the exact same content standards. That's often a question we get asked. What our students are learning is exactly the same. Same standards, same proficiency tables, same level of rigor and expectation within proficiency. What is different is how they access those standards. And so our students get to look at that standard. They get to decide in what path do I want to do this? An example would be a 5th grader that made her own decision as to whether or not she wanted to maintain movement within some literature-based standards, or was she ready to move on to some informational-based standards. Our students get to make those decisions for themselves. Learning informational standards is not an option. They're required standards. You have to do that. But we work with students to say, we recognize that you don't have as high of a level of confidence, or maybe you're way more confident here. How and where do you want to access these? That can be said also for an informational standard. They have complete choice in what type of topic do you want to investigate this informational standard from. If we're looking at research standards, you can demonstrate that through any topic you want, and our students have complete freedom through those co-conferences to work with their teachers and decide what those are. The standard themselves, again, is not an option. How you choose to engage in that standard, the amount of time you believe you need to engage in that standard, when you're ready to show proficiency in that standard, how you choose to demonstrate proficiency, that is all up to the students. In terms of materials and resources, our students have access to the same materials and resources every Kaneland student has. So that is an area of consistency. The pacing that students use, that's up to them. So we don't set this is a 6-week lesson or this is a 6-week unit. Our students decide for themselves how long they presume that this will take them. They conference throughout that period with their teachers. They're constantly tracking, I'm moving at the pace I thought I was, I need to slow down, I need some more instruction, I caught on to this quicker than I thought I would. Every student is moving along those continuums more at their own pace rather than a pace that's been predetermined. And then, well, I sort of already talked about that one. So those are some of the highlights about how the environment itself is different and how the curriculum itself is different. Overall, I would say it is a much smaller overall number of students that you're interacting with throughout the day. That same thing can be said for teachers as well. They have the same core teachers that they're seeing in that same location of the building, so they're not transitioning back and forth that often. In terms of enrollment timelines, we are a choice-based school, so we do have to access or put out information to students at a different timeline. For Ignite, what's different than our other schools is there's not just a simple rollover of these 3rd graders will be in 4th grade next year. It is a choice every year for parents to attend this type of learning environment. What we did in our first year was promoted the events through the banners that we had talked about last time we were here. In our first year, we held early enrollment throughout the month of October. And then after that early enrollment, that's where you were guaranteed admission for that first year. We opened it up through the end of December, just before winter break, to really get an idea of, do we have enough students in this first year to open the school, to move forward, and we did at that point, and continued to have some flexibility and fluidity in that enrollment throughout the spring and summer. We followed that again into this second year, relatively similar, holding those same informational opportunities, holding that same those October event dates, sharing an interest form to try to gain an idea early on of how many students were looking to remain at Kipla for our second year, as well as join us in our second year. And then needing particularly to have that different timeline for high school was very important, because all 8th graders across the district need to register for high school by mid to maybe the 3rd week of January, I think it was. And so we really needed to separate that 9th grade timeline in our second year from our 3rd through 8th. So our 3rd through 8th graders, we didn't need to know until just we had set up April 4th as our early deadline for those grade levels. And for high school, that date had to be so much earlier so that we would be able to ensure that our 8th graders would have access to the same registration experience that all of our 8th graders would have access to should we not be able to expand. So Mr. Rowley is going to talk about, then you had asked, so knowing that it is the environment and the curriculum together that create this experience that's been designed specifically for Kaneland, Mr. Rowley will talk about then those 4 options that you asked for some additional information on.
A quick question though. So,
Yes, sure.
so when we did the registration of the 8th graders who wanted to become 9th graders, there was 7 actual 8th graders who were going to register for 9th grade.
Well, so we currently had, I believe the number was 17 total, including the ones that we have currently registered as 8th graders. The difficulty is it was an interest form of, are you interested in participating in 9th grade? So it wasn't a guarantee of enrollment, but it was, I believe the total number was 17 that we had of currently registered 8th graders, plus
Some
those who
potential
had completed the interest
How many
form.
were actually registered?
We didn't open it.
Well, you said there was
actual
currently
registration.
registered 8th graders, and
Yeah,
then there was some
those-
interested.
We currently have 15, how much is it for 8th grade right now? 15, I believe, 8th graders, 12 to 15 8th graders.
So I'm struggling
Alex
because this
probably
number
knows
keeps
exactly.
this number keeps changing constantly. There was 7, then there was 9, then there was 12, then there was 15, there was 17.
Yeah.
I don't understand how we don't have kind of a solid number here. My other question is, when you did started getting information about who might be interested and who, for 9th grade, and it was a lower number. Obviously, it wasn't 50. It was then with the rest of the administration, it's still your recommendation that we do not move forward with the 9th grade expansion, correct?
Yes, I was part of those conversations.
Okay.
Yes.
And I mean, all things considered, from a financial perspective and the lack of interest in it, that is still your recommendation is to defer to next year, have this discussion again to find out where we're at with potential 9th and 10th graders to see if that's something that we could combine.
Yeah, the district recommendation is to delay for 1 year, and he'll go through those recommendations that we had talked about. Our goal absolutely is still to continue to expand. We absolutely believe in the philosophy.
Yeah.
We've seen great success. We know that we are offering something that's incredibly beneficial for our students. So believing in the concept, believing in the philosophy, believing in personalized learning in general, absolutely no doubt whatsoever about the power of putting students in control of their own learning. No doubts there whatsoever. Being one member of an administrative team that needs to look at the global district needs is a challenging position to be in when you're particularly working with one group of students and seeing the impact and the power that it's having on them and seeing the difference that it's making for them is an incredibly difficult position to sit in, to also have to weigh that against this is an amazing district with a whole lot of needs and a whole lot of important things. And so yes, collectively as a district administrative team, we did have to make that tough decision of where do we put our limited funds and where does that make the most sense?
No, and I find that very honorable because this is, you have a lot of vested interest as kind of the interim principal, coordinating it, setting all this up, explaining it and getting it out there and getting this whole program going, and for you to be able to take a step back and see, from a higher level view, working with the different administrators from a financial and fiscal responsibility, the other needs of the district. And I commend you on that because that's not easy. I know if I have a bone, like it's really difficult for me to put that down, right? If I have a vested interest in something, it's really difficult, I think, for most people to take a step back and see that high level view of like, okay, this is what we need to do from a responsibility standpoint. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but we have to pivot for now and kind of reevaluate. My only other question, because there is such a kind of flexibility between the different grades, I don't know enough to know anything, but since there is this level 6th through 8th grade kind of flowing back and forth, I mean, with having that flow with 9th grade added in, so the 9th graders still have access to the Kipla. And I know I'm adding plan E here. I'm not trying to, I'm sorry. But when you explain it that way, it's a little bit more ebb and flow about what you're learning and when you're learning and who you're learning with. Since we have such a small cohort right now for 8th to 9th grade, is that an option also, you know, and again, I'm not asking for you to go and figure this out and come back next board meeting, I promise, guys. But like that's something that's kind of newer to me, an understanding of how you can kind of bounce around,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
within
I
a
think
different grouping.
it sounds so simple and ideal,
Yeah.
and I wish that we could do that. The barrier to just simply having ninth grade stay is the certification and the licensure for high school teachers. They have to be certified in their content area for those students to receive credit for that high school course. So if they're going to receive credit on that transcript, it has to be by a high school licensed teacher to be able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
That makes
and
sense. I've just,
yeah.
you know, something popped up.
It would be ideal if we had that licensure of our current teachers.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing, and like you said, I commend you for, you know, having to come to that conclusion and working with the rest of the admin.
Yeah, and
It's tough.
I mean,
not
sidebar, but that is truly a Kaneland philosophy that for the over 20 years I've been in the district, we have had the mantra of we are an EC12 district, and we think globally, and that truly every competing interest you're going to hear has been thoroughly vetted from people who are trying to look at the district-wide perspective and take into account of all of those needs.
Thank you.
So I have a question while we're on this topic. So a huge source of frustration for me is the expectations, because I feel for the parents, I feel for the students. An expectation was set, even through the whole thing I was considering for my daughter, that the whole time, and we don't get into the minutia of it, our role is governance, so we don't get into the minutia, but the whole time the expectation was set, hey, we'll have 3rd through 8th grade, and then it's going to expand. What was administration's thought process in terms of setting those expectations and then coming? I mean, you had to have known at some point, and I'm not saying you specifically, forgive me, I'm saying administration as a whole. You had to have known at some point that this was a pilot program and that enrollment may be down. And so how does it come back to, it's frustrating that it's before us now, right? Like this should not be something we should be dealing with. Like where was the ball dropped and where's that accountability taken into place? What did you guys, what were the expectations?
Sure. I think that's a great question. We've asked ourselves a million times. I think hindsight is 2020 is, you know, probably a large part of that. Our rationale and our thinking behind that was the natural transition from 5th to 6th grade did give us the largest amount of students. So we had 36 6th graders at the start of the year, by far the largest cohort of students with that natural transition. With 8th to 9th grade being a natural transition, some of our thinking, erroneously, obviously at this point, was that natural transition point would garner an increase as well. If that 5th to 6th had such a large number, it stood to reason at the time that 8th to 9th might likely as well. That in combination with, we had many families who had said, this concept is very intriguing to us. This idea of putting our students in a different role within their own learning, we love this idea. Most of our first year parents here will tell you that our answer to a lot of their logistical questions early on was, we're not quite sure yet. We'll have to see. We have to see which students come through our door first. And so we had many families that said, we're very, very interested, but we want to let you get your feet set. Take this first year. We would consider you in your second year, but get off the ground. Let's see how year 1 goes. So probably the 2 biggest things that were pointing to the direction of expecting to have at least what we had in the 6th grade section was that natural transition point garnering more interest, as well as many families talking about, we've spent 2 years at Harder. We don't want to necessarily pull our students out in their 3rd year, but once we have that natural transition and they'd be starting a new school anyway, that makes more sense for us as a family timeline wise. So those were signs that led us to believe that moving to 9th grade, and certainly that is something we do take responsibility for. We fully believe that we would have the student population that would allow us to move forward, and we were planning on moving forward until as we got closer to that 9th grade registration and starting to recognize we're doing all of the same PR, we're putting out all of the same information, but it doesn't look like we're going to have the number of students relative to what the cost is going to be.
So you did all this marketing, you did everything. Have you seen any other schools, because I know you've gone and observed other schools, where they will actually make recommendations to parents like individual recommendations. And so, again, as much marketing as you can do, you are still going to miss people. We do surveys, we do emails, we do a lot. We still miss. We know that's one of the downfalls of trying to reach out to the parents. So have you ever seen where maybe counselors can make recommendations to, or parents, and have those, or you even have those
Yeah.
one-on-one conversations?
Yeah, certainly. One of the things that we did in our first year, and we did again this year, was utilize parent-teacher conference as that opportunity of working to make sure that all of our teachers were aware of what is Ignite, how is it the same, how is it different. We had sent out some talking points to all of our teachers. If you have students that you think would benefit, here's the sort of student, we don't have specific entrance criteria, but these are the characteristics of the types of students that Ignite is designed to meet their needs. If you have students that you're currently serving that you think Ignite might be a good thing, could you make sure parents are aware of this opportunity? We do still get parents who reach out that say, we didn't know that you existed. And, and you are the one putting the information out. It's, how could you not know? We're here. So we made sure that we did use those parent-teacher conference opportunities. We did this year attend the 5th grade transition meeting at Harder that they host every year for all of the parents. And this was the first year we included some information about you're transitioning to 5th grade. Do you realize you have 2 options at this point? So we did attend that. We have been really trying very hard to walk the line between we are not high pressure sales school. We're not recruiting. We're not promoting. We're not in any way, shape, or form trying to say this is better. We're trying to say that there are 2 options and here's how they're the same and here's how they're different. And so we've talked a lot about our job is to inform, and we're trying to simply inform and make sure that people know who we are, what our purpose is, and who we're here for, but not at all to do any type of high pressure, come on, give us a try, pull, like there's a line we're trying to walk very much with that. So we certainly have reached out to other principals. Could you throw this in your newsletter? Could you put this in the KCN? Teachers during conferences, could you have these out? Could you mention if there's a student? But we haven't gone individually seeking out unless a teacher has said, I've talked with this parent, maybe give them a call, that type of thing.
I mean, I'll give you take off my board hat and put my parent hat on. That's been a huge source of frustration for me because I support the personalized learning. I support Kipla. I get what they're doing, and I think it's a good thing. But I cannot find any source that's telling me, because my daughter, certain learner, right? This is tailored to a certain learning style where kids will either thrive or they won't, depending on the type of learner they are. And I can't find anyone who's evaluating whether or not my daughter's a good candidate, or giving advice for me as a parent. I don't know. I'm not in there. I'm not in education. I don't know, what style. And so for me, that's been another source of frustration. It's like, I talk to my daughter and she says, well, I don't want to leave my friends. Well, that's beside the point. What's going to make you succeed, And so I've asked, and I've been asking since she was younger, and I feel like there's no connection between Kipla and the other elementaries that are going in there saying, hey, your son, and it doesn't have to be a high pressure sales pitch, but have you considered this? The way your son operates, they may be an ideal candidate for. And I'm not against Kipla. I want the program to succeed, but I'm trying to find a way that we can organically make it grow rather than say, if you don't sign up, we're cutting the program. You know what I mean? It's got to thrive, and it's got to be because these kids want to be in there and want that personalized style of learning, not because they want to go to a separate school because they want to get out of their current environment, but because they want that, they'll thrive in that personalized learning environment.
Yeah, we certainly, it's a large district, obviously, with lots of schools and lots of teachers. We do attend like EAC meetings, which is our elementary advisory committee, and make sure that those teacher representatives are aware. We attend MTSS meetings, certainly always looking for more ideas. We send information out in our curriculum connection to make sure people know and teachers know. I think for teachers, that they don't have that many one-on-one opportunities for sitting down with a parent outside a parent-teacher conference, and that's a total of 20 minutes to communicate a whole lot of information. But that's something we can work on, is continuing to make sure that staff across the district know who we are, what the purpose is, what types of students. That's a really hard question to answer in and of itself as well. I get that question a lot. I do have teachers who will send me names of, hey, I reached out to this parent and they'd like some more information. And so we respond to all of those types of things. I would certainly hope, and I believe that if a parent reached out to a teacher and asked that very question of, tell me a little bit more about Ignite and what do you see in my child in terms of what type, how they would thrive or may not in that type of environment, I would venture to guess most of our teachers would be pretty qualified to answer that question. Everything I have sent out to them has included the caveat of feel free to just send them directly to us. If there's something about the structure you don't know, I'm happy to answer all of those questions too. Kids are individuals, unique souls. And so even putting out a list of typically students who are really creative outside of the box thinkers, they generally would do well in a student-driven environment. Our experience in this first year has been there's no one student that it's this that makes them successful. We've seen kids thrive for reasons that have surprised us, and we have seen some kids struggle for reasons that have surprised us. That's what happens when you're working with unique individual molds. That's one of the things that is so helpful at Ignite, is that flexibility not only exists within our structures, but we absolutely take that into the individual students too, of what specifically do you need and how can we accommodate that within a very loosely structured environment. So you need a break at this time, and in this way, let's go do that. We can do those things in ways that don't interrupt structures that are in existence.
Do you have any objective measures of student achievement for both gen ed and students with IEPs yet? Other than
Some early, yeah, we have some early data. So our students do have to take all of the same district-wide assessments that every other student does. So the only district-wide assessment measures that we have both pre and post, or at least some relative pre and post, is the iReady fall to winter benchmark. And we did have some very strong scores that we were quite proud of that showed growth between fall and winter for our students. They are just scheduled this April and the next few weeks to take the spring iReady assessment. We did just take the IAR assessment, but as you know, that data takes far too long to get to tell us.
This includes both gen ed as well as students with IEPs.
Yep, everybody.
So student growth has been, how would you characterize it for both groups?
For both groups, I would.
Each group.
Yeah, I think the trend is absolutely, we have seen, we had one grade level, our fourth grade level, that had over 20% growth from fall to winter, which is astronomical. So that's also one measurement.
Yeah, no,
so we're very curious to see how that group performs in the spring. But yeah, that's a benefit of having to administer all of those same academic assessments, is we also give the Castle survey district-wide as well. And so we had very high levels of students rating, feeling a sense of belonging, feeling like they have a connectedness in the building, feeling safe in the building. And so we were very happy with the results of that Castle survey. That's going to be administered again. That was done fall, winter, and it'll be again in the spring too.
And that's students both gen ed,
everybody
as well
takes
as students with IEPs.
What is the split, gen ed to IEP at Kipla?
So it's about, right now it's just under 20% of our students have either a 504 or an IEP.
Okay.
We've tried to keep our demographics, so to speak, relatively consistent with the rest of the district. We probably are slightly higher, just percentage wise, having fewer students. But it's within a relatively consistent range.
So kind of asked too, have you seen any other, I don't want you to feel like you're a salesman and marketing and stuff like that, but are other schools, like you said, we're EC through through 12, and so this should be a natural recommendation. Like our teachers, our counselors, you guys should be able to naturally be able to talk to parents and say, we've seen this in your student, your child is, would probably, would like for you to consider, even if it's just a letter to them to say, hey, if you would like to meet with me. Have you seen anybody, or do you have any intentions on that? Again, like you said, we're trying to recruit our own. And I think now over the next year, if we say, yes, let's delay it, everybody's going to go, oh, board doesn't agree with it, district doesn't agree with it. So we're going to go into this whole cycle of people thinking, Kaneland doesn't trust Kipla, and we do, you know, and we really want to fight for it. So I guess what are the next steps when it comes to, or do you have any thoughts of how do we get those parents like President Gonzalez, him and his wife, to be able to say, to acknowledge, or like, oh yeah, this would be good. And they had that, I think sometimes we need that direct connection from you or from somebody from the school to say, hey, would you mind? There's just this information. If you're interested, you know, reach out to me. We're that
Yeah.
personalized.
I think the probably closest connection would be whoever that student's current teacher is. So phone calls that I receive from parents asking me that question, it's really difficult to answer because I'm getting, you know, my child has this diagnosis or my child is excelling in this area. I don't know that student. I don't work with that student every day. So truly the recommendation is often I can tell you about the structures. I can tell you about similar students who have experienced success. However, nobody's going to know you and your child as well as you and their current team of people. So often I'm recommending back to, have you talked to your child's teacher yet? I recommend you reach out. I might send that teacher an email and say, hey, so-and-so reached out. Could you please follow up and provide sort of your thoughts and insight? One of the things we have started doing, we plan definitely to continue and expand into the next year, is having our other teachers from the other schools come out and observe, come and see the building, come and spend some time in the classrooms. The structure is very different. And so I think the more there's an awareness across the district of exactly what does this look like, you know, they can read about it, but seeing and experiencing it gives a different experience. So I think that will help as well. But we I probably receive phone calls at least 2 or 3 a week saying, my child's teacher recommended I reach out to you. So I know it's happening. Just unfortunately not ninth graders right now.
If I could jump in real quick, I think some of the difficulty with that, I don't have exact numbers, but if we have roughly 105 students over at Kipla right now, I would say probably 50% of those students were not the original students that showed interest. So when these conversations, these one-on-one conversations are happening, for whatever reason, it seemed like for a large stretch there, we would have 2 students that would say, oh, thank you, but this isn't for me. And then a day later, or hours later, we would have 1 or 2 contact and say, hey, I think this is an environment for me. So a lot of those pinpointed conversations that were happening, there was a lot of turnover. Same thing too, when we try to pinpoint those numbers of what that incoming 9th grade class looks like, the original interest form, I think there were 10 current Kipla 8th graders and 5 current Harder 8th graders. That number then dipped because we had a student that moved out of our boundaries. We had a student that is committed to a school elsewhere. So that 8th grade Kipla number dropped down to 8. But then we had a couple more that showed interest, and the same thing with Harder, same thing with a couple families that had moved in the meantime. So some of that inconsistency of the messages that we're having and those in-depth conversations we're having, there's a lot of turnover in the numbers that are expressing interest. For promotionally, considering that we actually have the school up and running now, I think it's a little bit different than a position that we were in this time last year. We do have teachers, instructional coaches. We have a lot of staff that is coming over to actually see the product. They're able to see the instruction happening, and they can go back and talk to those MTSS meetings, those behavioral meetings, where as students are showing more and more trends, we have the building, and we have an effective structure to say, okay, it's not working here, but I've seen this in action over at the academy. We've given tours. We've had the benefit of having a parent night at Harder this year. We've been able to get, as far as generating interest for our 8th grader, we've been able to get into homerooms this year for our 8th graders, show videos for our 8th graders. So there is a lot of contact with our students. I'm a parent myself of a middle school student, and I guarantee you that everything that their administrator tells her gets home to my ear. So I understand that there's some of that stuff is lost in translation. But I also think a benefit that we have when we're talking about recruiting for next year, we do have a more defined student profile of who has demonstrated success this year. That was difficult. We were projecting a lot of what we thought it would be, and I think it's very different than what we had anticipated this time last year to what we're actually seeing students, how they interact with each other. So we do have a student profile that we've been able to share with our community. We've shared it at our open houses, which I think is helpful. And then again, just being able to see the students in action in that learning environment in action we are hopeful for that growth. The difficulty that we ran into this year was just the time frame of registering for the high school. We hosted those things, the homerooms, the videos, the parent nights, the ninth grade specific parent nights. All of those were done by November in order to get registration ready to go for the incoming ninth grade class. So it was a little bit tighter of a time frame where we do have a little bit more time, and those things are currently happening if they haven't already happened within the last month or so.
Mr. Raleigh, give us a second. Let's check in with Dr. Lawler. See if Dr. Lawler, do you have anything to add?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I actually have kind of a long list, so I don't know, should I do that now or is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. We're having a discussion now.
No, I know. I didn't want to dominate the conversation though, so but you know I have a bunch of thoughts I want to share, but I'm not there to do it. So but if it's okay, I'm going to start going.
I'd say feel free to share your thoughts.
Okay, thanks, Adam. So I'm going to start by saying I've got like 5 or 6 questions right off the bat, and they're for lots of different folks out there. So if you could keep up with me, that'd be great. First, I kind of want to start though that I'm kind of frustrated with where we're at right now. The last meeting we spent all that time brainstorming all these other pathways, and it seems to be kind of pointless at this point because if we don't have buy-in from the folks who are doing the work, I'm frustrated by that, right? I'm frustrated that we do not. I disagree wholeheartely with what's being presented, but I also don't believe you should tell people to go do something that they don't believe in. So that's why I'm torn. Mrs. Garland, at some point, if you could for me, I would love to hear your thoughts on how we should rank the different options that we did put together at the last meeting, just so I have an idea of what you think is the best plans and what you think are the least. This is probably, the next question is probably for either Dr. Fuchs or Dr. Atkins. I'm interested to know, I see we have the cost listed for what it would cost to expand the ninth grade in various versions. We don't have the cost listed of taking these 12 to 15 students and putting them back in the general population of the high school. There has to be a cost associated with that. I'd like to see how that compares out because I think that also weighs in on this decision. I'd like to know what we're going to do to help transition these 12 to 15 students and what our plans are. And I would like to put a commitment for them and be on the record tonight, because I think that's also one of our weaknesses right now is that we have made commitments to people and not followed through. And I would like to make sure that we do follow through with whatever we are going to say to those parents tonight. I also want to know what we're going to do now for future pilots, right? Because we have, as a board, said that we are going to be committed to taking risks and making bold choices, to making a culture of excellence. And we have something like that in front of us, and we're walking away from it, which is fine. But now, what is the plan for future pilots? How are we going to actually make a culture of excellence if we just keep doing the same old, same old? And I want to know what we should say to folks so they should buy into these things. And then lastly, I really think we owe something to these parents who, for whatever reason, because of our miscommunication, because of a lack of communication, were under the perception that this was a viable thing that was going to happen. And we have now said that really isn't true. And we owe something to those folks. We made big mistakes here, and we have to own those. All right, I'm done. My rant's over. Thank you.
Encourage us to let Mr. Raleigh finish. A couple of Dr. Lawler's questions will be answered through Mr. Raleigh's portion of the presentation.
Yeah. So if we the board don't mind at this point, let's finish the presentation and then we can further this discussion.
Yes, thank you. So the second portion of this is looking at the 4 plans that the board asked for. All but one of them were plans that we fully vetted over the course of the last 18 months. The only one we didn't look at, we looked at bits and pieces of what it would look like would be combining that 9th and 10th grade. But we did look at Plan B on this list is what was originally presented to parents. That is opening the 9th grade academy, standalone academy over at Kipla. Plan C is looking at what would that look like. It's the hybrid model that was discussed at the last board meeting. What would that look like to run this academy over at physically located at Kaneland High School? And then in terms of generating more student enrollment, we looked at what would it look like to expand this to 9th and 10th grade. Ms. Garland outlined a lot of those factors that go into both the instructional setting and the environmental setting. I'm going to take a moment to go through each of these plans outside of Plan A, which is the deferral of the expansion, to look at just a couple quick points of what it looks like, if it meets what our expectations and our philosophies are of the environmental and curricular offerings, and then costs associated with each of those. These costs are best guess at this time. It's based on, when we talk about dollar figures, again, as Dr. Atkins talked about, those are ballparked FTEs or placeholder FTEs. And it would really be dependent on a lot of these bullet points on students that actually would enroll in the academy itself. To answer one of the questions, the costs to integrate these students back into the high school, there is not a cost associated with that because they currently are enrolled at the high school. It would be easier to pull them out of the Kaneland High School master schedule to educate them at the academy than it would be to have them in the academy right now and then try to go and fit them into a master schedule that has already been decided. So there's not a cost associated with that. Our minimum staffing plan accounts for all those FTE, account for the students as Kaneland High School students. And then we'll talk a little bit about what some of our plans look like for the transition and the support plan for these students next year. But if we could scroll up, looking at Plan A is a deferral of that expansion until next year, and really a couple key timelines that we want to hit. Number one, we were able to go into with both our Kipla staff and our Harder staff to jointly present to our middle school families, our 8th grade families. We've done various activities over the course of the year over at Harder to generate interest with our students. We will continue to do those things as they come out through the end of this year. We do have an open house at Kipla tomorrow night. And then we really want to push when we talk about finding numbers for next year, really through that parent-teacher conference time, that early November time next year, to allow teachers and students to look at that student profile to see if the academy would be a best fit for them for their 9th grade year. But Plan A really is that deferral until the 25-26 school year. If we look at Plan B is the 9th grade expansion as presented. A couple highlights that we have shared previously. We would be looking at 3 FTE. That again goes into the certification piece and the needs of certified staff that we would have. We would have students attend first and second periods at Kaneland High School to participate in 2 elective courses. Third period at the high school is the high school homeroom period. We would use that time to transport them back to the academy where they would run 2 different block classes. This plan does meet our environmental philosophy. It meets our instructional philosophy, and the estimated cost for that when we look at FTE, needs for curricular licenses, transportation, all of that is roughly estimated at about $261,000 as previously presented. Plan C, there was a lot of talk about what that would look like if we were to physically host the Ignite Academy at the high school. So again, these conversations were happening throughout the summer. When we look at our high school right now, we do have very limited space. Outside, all of our traditional classrooms are used throughout the day. We do have several teachers that are displaced in the sense that they don't have their same room for the entire class period. But there are other pockets of rooms throughout the high school that we looked as a possibility of hosting an academy. When we looked at that, all of those spaces but one currently have some either section, course, or program that runs in those spaces. So in order to put these students there, we would be displacing current programming outside of one space. That one space we would then need to outfit for learning spaces, where we already need to do that at the academy, so that's an accounted for cost. But we were cognizant of the fact that that would be one limited space for these students for their entire day of learning. On top of all of that, when we look at the needs of our entire high school, we have limited access to our science labs. There is a state mandated requirement that our students are engaging in laboratory sciences. That doesn't have to happen freshman year. But what happens now is that students, when they're enrolled in their science classes at the high school, they have access to the labs. If their class doesn't, we have teachers that are coming in when those are free during, if I have a classroom in the lab, Dr. Atkins might come in during my planned period when it's free. So there is a lot of rotation happening there. So from an equity standpoint, to house another program there that would need access to those labs, we wouldn't be able to definitively say there would be equitable access to those science labs. And with that being a state mandate, that was as close to a non-negotiable for us that we could find. This also does not meet our environmental philosophy. These students, where this building is located, it's pretty centrally located in the high school. So there would be a lot of physical movement. There would be within 1,100, 1,200 students. I'm not sure the exact enrollment right now, but roughly about 1,200 students where there would be commingling that are happening at some point through the day, whether that's to the bathrooms, to lunch, to related services, to the library. And then looking at the estimated cost for all that, we would save on the curricular license because we pay by site. So even though it would be ninth graders at the high school and ninth graders at the academy, that is a second site. And based on what we've had to pay in the past, we would save about $10,000 because those students would be granted access to the high school site. We would also save on that $1,000 roughly estimated for transporting our students. So that's where the difference of that $11,000 comes in between Plan B and Plan C. When we look at Plan D, which is the expansion physically located at Meredith, this would expand enrollment to our current 8th graders and our current 9th graders. So we would look at a 9-10 rollout for next year. Two things of note, not that they cannot be overcome. We do not have current 9th graders identified. That number is unknown. We've had a couple. When I say a couple, I can think of, I think, 2 or 3. A family that came to our informational night to begin with, and I've had a parent reach out. I'm not sure. I think Ms. Garland may have had 1 or 2, but a very minimal number of current 9th graders that have inquired about that possibility. With our students currently enrolled in the high school and scheduled in the high school, there could be an impact on our high school FTE and the minimal staffing plan that was presented, because then again we would be shifting an unknown number of sophomores next year to those elective periods during first and second period. Again, nothing that we couldn't overcome, but things that we need to be cognizant of in order to meet the needs of our students. This plan does meet both the instructional and environmental philosophies of our standalone academy. Because we are rolling this out to 10th graders, we would incur an additional cost of $25,000, roughly estimated, to provide driver's ed to these students, which is the difference between that 261 coming up at $286,000 as an estimated cost for 9th grade. So those are the 4 plans that we were tasked with bringing back to the board. I'm going to pause for a second to see if there are any questions based on that information. And then I would like to close with some of the tentative plans that we have right now for those students and what that transition to the high school would look like.
I have a quick question referencing back to Dr. Lawler's question in terms of ranking the administration's recommendations. Are we talking, because, obviously the administration's primary recommendation hasn't changed. It's been the same consistently. But are we talking, A's primary, B? Is it fair to say that that's what you guys, is that the order in which you would rank these options? If you had to give your professional opinion?
We have not had this conversation. I would say that the plan that we had visualized would have been Plan B outside of that driver's ed cost. If we were able to get a large group, I think that would be ideal, just from an environmental community standpoint of having a few more peers in those classrooms. But again, from a fiscal standpoint, I don't know what that would do for our budget and what the costs of that would look like. So I would probably say that Plan B, if we were ranking them, would probably be the most feasible, because that's the one that we had planned for moving forward with the entire time.
And that would be for this coming school year. If we push it off by 1 year, would you still want Plan B or Plan D for 2025, 2026? Because it's adding the 9th and 10th graders. Is it doable, I guess? Mrs. Garland, she's shaking her head yes, so I just...
No, I'll speak out of turn, having not had a single conversation with somebody else. Absolutely, Plan B is the plan that we have been working on for several years, designing, looking into other districts. Plan B is the plan that we had the enrollment. That was the one that we believed best fit the philosophy that we've designed for personalized learning in Kaneland. In terms of Plan D, the only difference is adding that other grade level. I personally believe most of the conversations that we have had with the high school administration has talked about the number of electives being part of the challenge. Is our students would have some limits in terms of the electives. And the higher you get up, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, you have increasingly larger amounts of your schedule that can be filled with electives. And so that by nature is going to put some limitations on students who choose to have the majority of their instruction at Kipla, simply because of when those electives happen to be scheduled. So truly our students would have to fit into the schedule of electives. 10th grade, it's pretty minimal for electives. 8th or 11th grade, it does increase the number of electives, but not that much. 11th and 12th, there's much more opportunity. I do believe that we could, if there's the fiscal thing, and then there's just the philosophy. Plan B or 10th, 9th and 10th could potentially work using that exact same structure that we plan, because nothing is different about B and D other than it's 2 grade levels of students. The one limitation would be the access to electives.
And to clarify, and this was talked about last board meeting, so the electives would still be at the high school, primarily during first and second period, at least for the 9th grade class. But as the students got into the higher level classes, they would not be able to do AP or dual credit classes, correct?
They could. They would have to go next door to the high school to do that. We wouldn't be able to offer those at Kipla, but they would be able to walk next door.
Oh, so they could still go next door. So it would
transport, yeah.
So they might be spending, if by 11th and 12th grade, there might be a lot more electives, AP, dual credit. They might spend more time at the high school versus Kipla anyway at that point.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Credit's a little bit trickier just with the certifications and what we need to abide by to meet the college and university requirements. AP, there's a little bit more flexibility with that ideally. So there are certain trainings and things like that need to happen for our teachers that teach AP through the College Board. There's some opportunity there with programs that we have not needed to purchase in the past. Part of that outlined in the future rollout that we had planned for would be the cost of Edgenuity. Edgenuity it's a hybrid online learning platform. It's a little bit different than some of the learning platforms we currently use, which are all self-paced modules. Edgenuity would allow a student to engage with an actual instructor, but it would be through a screen. So it wouldn't be a Kaneland instructor. They wouldn't physically be located with those students, but there is an opportunity there to engage. And we do have In our course book, we do have, and we've had several students take advantage of in the past, independent studies. Where we've done it in the past would be, we would find a quiet office. The student would usually go through Brigham Young University, which is similar to the Edgenuity. So they would be on via Zoom or Google Meets and meeting with a college professor as an independent study.
Cool. Okay.
Question about the budget. So for this year, so it says estimated for Plan B. That's what we were looking for. So we planned on going forward. If we would have had the numbers, is this not already budgeted in our budget for this year?
No, it's not.
I'm asking them because how
But
are we?
We've already talked about this. It's not
No,
budgeted for this year.
no, there's still, okay. I'm confused. Community members are confused. We're getting emails about it. So you might not be confused, but I would like clarification at this point. So there's this estimated cost. If we knew we were going to do this, we got the numbers and everything, where was this money going to come from if it wasn't already in our budget? So we would be asking now for another board meeting to add 261,000 to it. I mean, is this not in our budget?
It is, and I'm happy to answer that.
I just want clarification. I understand as a board member, but there's a lot of parents, a lot of community members are thinking we are going to now, if we were to say yes to this, we are going to have to raise this money or we're going to have to pull this money away from something else. So I just want clarification.
Of course.
Thank you.
So in December, we brought the financial projections to you for the 24-25 school year. In December, we knew that our recommendation was not to move forward, so we did not include that information in the financial projections at that time. It was already pulled out. At that time, we had planned on 5 new staff members, additional FTEs. Those are in there. And at one point, it included 3 FTEs for Kipla. But then once we pulled those out, they were replaced with some of the others on the list, the whole long list that we've showed you. So no, the money has not been planned for at this point, because in December, when we were working together to try to figure out how best to meet the needs, we took the Kipla out because we knew that it wasn't going, that we weren't planning to move forward at that time. So at that time, if you'll recall, I showed you a $1.5 million deficit projected. Right now, we're a little bit over that because of the staff that we had to add tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The reason I'm asking that too is because there's a lot of confusion. Parents are wondering why we are saying no to something that, well, and then where's that money going to? Are we using that money to pay for something else? So I just want to thank you for clarifying that we had already said no to, or the budget to it. So yes, if we were to say yes to it at this point, we would have to come up with this money. But it also helps also community members and for board to know that November next year, this is something, all this work, your recommendations or your next step, what you're going to share with us next, all has to start happening and has to happen. And we have to have strong answers by November.
Yes.
So.
And I would say if we move forward at this point, the money doesn't come from anywhere. It comes from our fund balance. It's a projected deficit. We won't know exactly how much the deficit is till we get into the fiscal year and start spending.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yep.
Any other questions on the 4 plans as presented? All right, and then last but not least, just wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about what we've looked at thus far to help support students that have currently are engaging in this environment and instruction. We have, as enrollment has started, as scheduling has started, we do have our students that are currently there flagged, and same with the students at Harder that have showed interest. So very easily those students will be scheduled into their own homeroom. And within that homeroom, there are some required lessons from a social emotional standpoint, but there's a lot of time then where students can get support, go through a similar experience to what they're experiencing with their advisory period over at Kipla. The second bullet point there gets a little bit into the weeds of what's happening across the district, but when we talk about auditing and monitoring the implementation of our 10 personalized learning tenets, those 10 tenets are something that every staff member in Kaneland is currently engaging in. We do have audits that happen with that. Those audits fall within the Department of Educational Services. So it's a matter of, we have an entire year's worth of work and evidence. So it's really working with our high school students and the high school staff that are working with them to really make sure that we're continuing to grow, offer professional development. Again, that will then be monitored through the Ed Service Department, through our high school administration, through our Kipla administration, and through our personalized learning coordinator. That now becomes a full-time role. There's a little bit more flexibility for that person to have a larger impact. And then last but not least, when we look at IEPs and 504s of students that are currently enrolled in Kipla, we have already started to have those conversations and updating their accommodations and modifications to those plans to reflect what is provided for them at the high school. So trying to look at all of our learners to make sure that all of those pieces are accounted for when they get to the high school.
Okay, so we need to continue this discussion, and think we need to come to a resolution tonight. So we need to get started. My opinion is that the first matter of business is we need to narrow down. We have 4 options in front of us, and rather than circling around 4 different options, we need to figure out, at least get down to 2. So it's either, I know that there's plan A and plan B, but I'll say option 1, option 2. So
Quick clarification. So we're talking about 2024, 2025. The reason I ask is because Dr. Lawler asked if there is a commitment, then, for a recommendation of commitment. So if we go with the recommendation of, delaying at the high school for this 2024, 2025, should we add on some commitment from them, modify the recommendation to have a commitment that we would do plan D or plan B for 2025, 2026? I'm just asking because Dr. Lawler, I just want to be respectful. I wrote kind of everything that he asked. And so he was asking for, commitment, recommendation, and what can we promise these parents for the future, for the next steps. So.
Well, that's one of my questions as well. So we sit here and let's say we go with plan A. Let's say we end up voting on deferral. I don't want to be doing this again next year.
Exactly.
What kind of commitment are we going to give to these parents, and what's the future of Kipla? And again, I support the program, but at the same time, we can't be doing this every year like this. Like, we have to come to a resolution, and it has to be finite and definitive. Like, we have to be. It is what it is. So I know that just added more complexity. It didn't help, yeah. But it's a valid point.
I know, we're looking at you guys.
I'll do my best to answer that from an educational services department response, and it is similar to what is stated. When we look at weighing needs for every one of our learners, it's incredibly, I don't feel I have the authority to commit to a plan regardless. Next year, I would need a little bit more guidance on what that would look like budgetarily, what it would look like physically. I believe we have the spaces. We have continued to promote and engage families and students since we notified parents that we were not expanding. We will continue to do that throughout the course of this year through November of next year. That November time is key because it truly is the first opportunities when teachers, parents, and students are physically sitting together. We have so many of our students that are doing student-led conferences that go through essentially a student profile of what the best learning environment for them would be. Part of it is still going to come down to a numbers game of if we have enough students to come over. I can see with an increased role of the coordinator to being able to develop the interest with staff. So we may have that staff that is certified at the 9-12 level where we may not be hiring them depending on, I think back to our minimal staffing plan years ago when we looked at this initial class coming in. And that year, even though we hired 9-point-something at Kipla, it was essentially a district-wide, it was a flat plan because we were able to recoup some of those FTE with the number of students that came over. That could be a possibility as we go forward. As far as committing to the philosophy of instructing these kids, I don't think anyone else have wavered from that whatsoever. It truly is looking at what is in the best interest of every student in Kaneland. And when we made that decision, we felt like there were some other needs that needed to be addressed, and that is why that decision was made.
So no doubt in my mind on that you guys have, sorry. Thanks. So you said, we've got the parents that are these 8th graders that are going to go to high school. So if we're, we're making that decision for them, whatever, this, for next year. All the current 3rd through 7th graders, they're going to look at, if we say no to this year, they're going to be like, oh, well, we're just on this train again and we're waiting to see what happens next year. I feel if we don't have some kind of a commitment from that something, maybe it doesn't have to be exactly like, I don't know what the wording is, but we're going to lose those, and we're going to lose the confidence of the rest of the community. And they're going to be like, they still don't know what they're doing. We want another year of them figuring it out. And so you guys are past that. You guys have figured it out. You know what you need. You know what you want. And so I know it's really hard for you to say, I can commit to this or that. And I guess that's why I'm holding strong on that.
Is it possible to set, and I don't know if this is the will of the board, but this is just a thought. Is it possible to set parameters where, I mean, if it's truly a numbers game, is it possible to say, we've heard from the community saying, if we would have known, we would have recruited, or we would have done, done our part to, is it possible to set parameters saying, hey, we're gonna go with the deferral this year, but if next year we have whatever that goal number is, we have 30, 35, we have 50 students, we'll do it. If not, we don't. And then there's no question. Expectations have been set, and it kind of puts the onus on. I think it puts the onus on you guys to recruit, but also the parents to get out there and show. Is that possible? A, and B, I'm asking the 7 of us, is that something that anyone would entertain? Right out there. Yeah, I guess
from a planning standpoint, it absolutely is possible. We could give you those. I don't think it's my authority to say that is what we are going to do. I believe that's what the board would need to vote on. But from a parameter standpoint of these would be numbers that would allow it to run. From an educational resource standpoint, you might save a couple $1,000s as we go through our social studies review right now. We are planning to add a social studies site license to Kipla for next year that is already absorbed within the educational services budget. So you might save $1,000 or $2 on that license, but as far as the comfortability of going into the fund balance, and Dr. Fuchs, I'm starting to go down a slippery road of a language I don't speak. I believe that's what the board would need to okay of. We are willing to spend X amount of dollars if we hit these key indicators.
And would the indicators be number of students, or number of students within 9th grade, or number of students within 9th and 10th grade? Looking for recommendation from you guys.
I think 9th and 10th grade, right? I mean, because even this going into 9th grade, the expectation was 50 students. And I don't know if that was like, if we have 50, we're good. But obviously it's much lower than that in the first one. Mm-hmm. So if they say, okay, if we have 50 students between 9th and 10th grade together, it makes fiscal sense. It stands to reason that we should add the FTE, and we'll open it up to both 9th and 10th grade. But yeah, if you come back with an actual number, then it's hard and fast. And then the families know, if we don't have this number, then we don't, because to your point, we can't do this again. We can't do this. We can't stretch this out to everybody else. We can't keep repeating ourselves and answering the same questions over and over for months. And to Dr. Lawler's point, the frustration is we've been saying the same things over and over for months now. It's very frustrating. I think there's 3 answers in this world. You have yes, no, and not right now. And from everything that's being said, it's a not right now. I mean, we're down to 8 students left in 8th grade Kipla that would officially be going to 9th grade at this point. We don't have the draw for it. Now we have a principal. So now you're freed up as a coordinator to spend more time, maybe one-on-one with the teachers, maybe one-on-one with students and everything else like that, to start being able to promote, especially for the 9th and the 10th graders, and get into 9th and 10th grade within the high school, right? And build this back up and explain what this program is all about, because I think there is a misnomer of what this program is and what it is all about. And I think there's some misunderstanding of that too. So I think that's where I think maybe some parent hesitation. I think it's an opportunity for us to not say, we don't want to do this, because I do agree we need to be progressive and we do need to have different opportunities for these students. And I love that idea. Absolutely. But at the same time, it's like, if we want to come correct, we want to be in the right position with the right amount of students, and from a financial and fiscal perspective, it does make, you know, sense for us to take a step back for this year and say, okay, you have a year to get after it, right? And then coming next year, and you give us a student threshold at 35 between 9th and 10th grade, it makes complete sense. If we're at 34, sorry. If we're at 36, perfect. Or 35, 36, perfect. Okay. And then we don't have to, the onus doesn't get put back on the board, because this is not, you know, this is not what we're here for ultimately. And Adam, you know, made a great point of that. It is super frustrating. We do want to know, but I think next year D is the only thing that makes sense. If we move to A this year and then D for next year, it makes the most sense if we actually have a student head count, and then we can go through the financial implications of that at that point.
Can we just vote on the recommendation and then like a month or two or something, give them a chance to be able to figure out what that number is?
Oh, no, so I'm sorry, sir. So there's going to be a public comment option after new business, but we don't engage with the public. That's correct. Yes, unfortunately, you had the opportunity before and then after. We can't engage with it's just a matter of practice. I'm sorry.
So board wise, so if we vote simple to be able to make a decision for these parents and these students to move forward, but then I'm feeling that you still need to do work of like, because we're saying 50 or we're saying 35, we don't know, we really don't know. So like you were talking about like figuring out budget wise and stuff like that, what is an appropriate number? Is that something that we can talk about later and vote on later, or do we have to do that at this point?
I mean, I don't think we have to do that at this point. We don't.
I don't.
No, sir.
No.
I'm sorry. We can't. It's a matter of procedure. I'm sorry. I understand. Sorry. We do not engage with the public.
So I don't want to force a number on them that might not be the appropriate, is what I'm trying to get to. So if we're gonna, like you said, we're gonna go one direction, it feels like we're going that direction, but we want to also give parents a commitment that following year will be 9th and 10th. I don't want to stipulate numbers yet, unless you guys feel like it's numbers, but I don't know. Maybe you guys might feel there's an appropriate number, and you've done the numbers ahead of time, so you know.
Did you have something?
Yeah, I
Mr.
just
McCullough?
been wanting to say this for a while. I think the constant in this whole with Kipla and Kaneland is there never was a budget. I think that's the problem, and that's what we're battling with. Is we had funding to do the 3rd through the 8th grade. Right now, we keep talking about what ifs. What's the budget? We don't have a budget, and that's the problem. We have Kipla's going to be competing with the rest of the school district. We got the track. The high school needs a dean. We just hired an OT. We have SLTs. We have hopes. There's expectations. That's the problem we're dealing with. It's 100% the funding. And if this goes forward next year, then the question I'm going to ask you guys is, why do you feel that you should get more than the rest of the school? Why should you get this teacher, this principal? Why should not the other portions of the school get assistant principals and everything else? We saw the list of what the district needs. And this is the constant competition of who's going to get the funding, who's going to get this. I think the contingency plan of Kipla was, it started, but there was a budget at the beginning, but now we're fighting over who's going to get what. Who's more important? It's not Kaneland as a whole. Now we're pitting Kipla versus Kaneland. You know, we have two different competing forces, different schools, entities, and this is what it's constantly doing. Even if we tell them to give us a number, where are we going to come up with that number? Where are we going to pull from? I mean, that's just, we just keep circling this.
But it was planned for, and if the numbers were there, this conversation wouldn't be here at the board. The staffing would have been figured out, the budget would have been approved in November.
But that's
so the plan would, so at this point of all the other things that are heightened, that have come up, it is very personal for all of us. But it was budgeted in the sense of that all the way up until November, then it was like, no, we don't have the numbers, so now we're going to pull it out. So yes, you're right, there's no budget for it now, but the intent was there. And so the only reason it's not being considered this year is because of the numbers. But if we would have had the kids, this wouldn't be here. This wouldn't be a question. We would be moving forward because that was the plan for Kaneland. The the last several years we've been doing this. This is the projected plan.
But if they were still here, we didn't have the voting, we still would have voted on it. There still would have been a budget that would have been exceeded, that we still would have had to agree on.
It would have been with the rest of all the other school budgets and everything else, and it was planned for. And the
that-
only
is
reason
that correct?
we
Is that-
pulled it out was because we didn't have the numbers.
Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
I agree. We had the plans. What would have been different is, instead of bringing a $1.5 million projected deficit, we would have found other places that we would have cut back to try to keep the deficit to a projected deficit of 1.5. That was our target at that point. Once we pulled it out, we met our target. So please remember, last year we ended with an actual deficit of 1.9 million. We are scheduled this year a little over 3 million projected for this year. I believe it's going to come in a little over 2 million. We have to figure out what our priorities are and start to curtail. This was one area where it serviced at that time between 10 and 15 kids. It was a pretty high number. We are doing the very best we can to manage the district with the resources we have.
So respectfully, I think we need to maintain focus on tonight. Tonight is these children, these students, and where they're going to go next year. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the details of what's going to happen, because we're not saying we're ending the program. We're talking about a deferral. Plan A is a deferral of the expansion. So that conversation can be had, whether sooner than later. Either way, that doesn't negate the fact that we need to give these kids an answer tonight, as a board, right? So if you guys want to continue this, we can, but I think at this point we need to focus on the process and moving forward for tonight to give the public, to give these kids an answer.
I think we need to vote on A or B tonight, or right now. I'd like to call a vote.
So
I don't know that there's much more information that can be restated again.
Yeah.
So I discussed with Maureen, our attorney, how we would handle these 4 different options. So at this point, I'm gonna need a consensus from the group on eliminating the options of Plan C or D from the proposal
For this year.
for this year.
Thank
And
you.
Dr. Lawler, before we do this, do you have anything to add?
He's still on.
Is he on?
Yeah.
He's on.
I don't know.
You there, Aaron?
Maybe not.
I don't have anything.
Yeah, I don't either.
Dr. Lawler.
Yeah, he says I can hear you, but you can't hear me. No, we cannot. Oh,
We
well,
cannot hear you, yeah.
I should text him that.
Not muted. I haven't touched it. I'm gonna try and recall you. I'm gonna hang up and recall you.
He's not gonna hear you either.
That was a poor choice of words. Sorry. I could mouth it to the camera, I
I'll
suppose.
text him.
Oops.
Oh, he can't hear us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you give me his number? I'm sorry. 630.
220-9565.
It did, yeah.
Okay, he might have just hung up. So 220-9565.
Can I put him on my phone? My personal? Does it feed to the, any problems with the microphone, or is it gonna feed?
Have to put it up to.
Hi, Aaron, how are you? So we're having some connection issues. So just a real quick refresh. I don't know how much you heard, but at this point, we're trying to grab a consensus as to whether the board would support removing Plan C or Plan D to narrow us down to two options to vote on.
Yeah, I heard, I was able to hear everything. My opinion, and it's just my opinion, is that if we're going to remove C and D, that's fine, but we still don't have something committed to those families. So I actually liked what you had said about putting a number on there and kind of holding the district's feet to the fire. I don't like it that we're going to, if we vote again tonight, we're just kicking the can down the road to next year. That is not okay in my book. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. So, at this point, I'm gonna proceed with, so given what you said, I think we can still reduce the options, because that doesn't, it's not necessarily eliminating any option, but in an effort to move forward and narrow down, I'm gonna get a thumbs up consensus from the board in terms of removing Plan C and Plan D as an option for proceeding next year with the Ignite Academy 9th grade expansion. So thumbs up to eliminating these. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Aaron?
Sure.
Okay. 7. Okay. So at this point, we're down to the two options, which we're circling back to where we were last meeting. Okay. So discussion.
Just to Dr. Lawler's point, I just want to be able to have some commitment from them, be that today, or if that's like a month from now or 2 months, to give them enough time to. But I don't know if that needs to be in the recommendation or if that needs to be topics for your future.
So, I mean, do you think we could do a deferral? So let's just say, for example, it's not official. I make a motion that we defer the expansion for the 2024-2025 school year, with the further discussion of a commitment to, I don't know, I feel like it is kicking the can down the road, but at the end of the day, these kids need an answer, and I tend to agree. We need to get off the pot. We need to figure it out.
And so, yes, by giving us that extra year with a full-time coordinator, I believe that the administration will be able to plan accordingly and include the information in the following year's budget.
Okay.
If that's what the board directs us to do, we will do that.
I will say a source of frustration for me, and I mentioned it, as part of that commitment, because I agree, I want this thing to succeed, but we can't just put it on the teachers. And I'm speaking only for myself. I've only seen my teachers, but I've had some all-star teachers. I've had some good teachers. And not only my teachers, but I've spoken to other teachers who don't have a full understanding of what these students, what it would take for these students to excel at Ignite. And I think that's an administration issue. I think that there some accountability needs to happen. Where that happens, I don't know. I don't want to continue this, but as part of that, I think it needs to be considered. And I'm definitely not throwing any of my teachers under the bus, because they have been awesome, and I think there's a disconnect, like I mentioned before. And so as part of this plan, there needs to be a commitment from administration to educate the parents, the teachers, anyone we need to make them understand what this academy is and what it isn't, so that we as parents can make educated, informed decisions.
And so when we bring back the plan, I would suggest that you direct us with parameters of a minimum number of students that it takes and the budget that you would support, and we'll work toward that accordingly.
Now we would see, I feel like we would need direction from you guys as to what would be, what would we
can do that.
Yeah,
But-
okay.
But you can direct us to bring back those two items, and we can do that as well.
So at this point, is there any more discussion? Anything that wants to be said?
I just like to say, I think if we don't do it next year, I don't think it will ever hit that number, because I think the parents will lose faith in building it. I don't think so.
Okay.
Something to consider.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so at this point, I guess I'll make the recommendation. So at this point, I I would like to make a recommendation that the Kaneland District Administration delay the high school expansion of the Kaneland Ignite Personalized Learning Academy for the 2024-2025 school year, as well as direct administration to provide us information regarding budgetary and headcount needs in order to make this a success, or in order to implement for the following year.
Do we say Plan B
Poorly
or
worded.
Plan D?
For both 9th and 10th grade together.
Yes.
We're not both 9th and 10th grade together. Did you get that, Julie?
Yes.
Okay, so I made the motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Dr. Lawler.
Can you come back to me? Yes.
Oh.
Aaron, can you hear us? Are you able to hear it? I can see your text, but I can't see. Okay, yes, you can. So can you verbally speak? Because we can't hear you.
Maybe call back. Can we continue?
I'm gonna try from the district's phone
Can we-
again.
I'll go to him first and then come back to him. Can we?
Yeah, we definitely need a voice vote.
Yeah.
I think he wants to go first.
Well, it's a rolling,
So,
nobody wants to go first.
yeah, so no, I don't know if that's the deal.
So
I'm
we're
not
just
getting
not-
anything from that, but
Yay or nay? So, we're good. Recommendations.
no, he didn't send it to me, but I'll just.
So now we can hear.
Yeah.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available.
We can't get a hold of him. How do we?
Yeah,
Just go down to 6?
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're
Because he's not responding to me either. So
Yeah.
there might be something up.
I was gonna say, there's no vote. He's not here.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just keep trying. We've
had
been
him-
doing that. That's what we did last time. Yeah.
I know my internet's sketchy in here, so.
Is it 9 or 8? Usually it's 8.
Oh.
What do we do?
So Julianne, there's a medical reason.
Your call has
Let me. Do you want me to just ask if can we move beyond him?
Yeah.
Should I ask him that?
Can we move beyond him?
Yes, he's not participating. It's like as if he stepped out.
Okay, so then we can still take the vote.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll get a confirmation, or if you want me to, I don't know.
Checking.
Is it? Do we need a confirmation that he wants us to bypass him? I know we can't take his vote.
Yeah, he's not. He's no longer with us.
Yeah.
Like here.
Yeah.
So, you can't take his vote if he's not gonna.
Exactly. So
Okay.
no, I know that, but I just
I'm
meant,
sorry.
do we need a confirmation that he is no longer, he's no longer,
Participating.
yeah, we can make that
Why don't you
assumption.
try?
Okay.
And see if he'll respond. I don't know that he can. Yeah,
You're looking up Robert's rules.
I am for a tie. But not for him. I'm thinking that Julie should, well, we'll see if.
I can look absent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would have to do.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, how long do we have to give him?
I'll reiterate before we vote real quick. Yeah, I'll clarify.
Okay, you guys ready to continue then?
You are the chair and you are scheduled to vote last. You will not vote at this point if
Unless
there-
there's a tie.
Mhm.
Unless there's a tiebreaker,
Right,
essentially.
right.
Okay. Everybody hear that? So if there's a tie and we need a tiebreaker, then I will.
Can't be a tie.
There can't.
Well, there can't be a tie.
You're right, it'll be, so that's what I'm saying, I don't believe you can vote.
Oh.
Because
What the heck?
the chair, in the event of a tie, the chairperson can vote.
Okay.
But I don't think you can make the tie.
Okay. Is what it is.
Okay. So then, Julie, will you please read back?
What the motion is?
Yeah, and then we'll clarify to make sure everybody
Absolutely.
understands what they're voting for.
All right, the motion is that that the Board of Education approve the delay of the high school expansion of Kaneland Ignite Personalized Learning Academy for the 2024-2025 school year, as well as direct administration to provide information on budgetary and headcount needs to implement the following year for both 9th and 10th grade.
It's way better if I said it. Okay.
Well said.
Yeah.
Much better.
Thank you, Julie.
Second time.
So a vote of aye, you're voting for delaying of the 9th grade, Kipla at the 9th grade level for the following year, and we're asking, sorry, I don't mean to pound. We're asking administration to bring us back more information to proceed that following year.
Yes.
Everybody clear?
Clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Mankivsky,
No.
Mr. Kleisner,
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons,
Aye.
Mr. Cook,
No.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 3-2. The Kaneland Ignite Personalized Academy 9th grade will be delayed for the following school year, and administration will return to us with further information regarding the following year. So. Okay. Get myself together here. So it's J3, correct?
If he pulls himself back to get, or if he's able to get back out, can he?
There he is right now.
Oh.
Okay, can we take a 5-minute break?
Sure.
Okay, we're gonna take a quick 5-minute recess.
President, we're gonna go ahead and proceed now with, the fourth item of new business, which is the organization of the Board of Education. Dr. Fuchs.
Yes, this is an annual task that the board is asked to do and required to do. This reorganization involves 3 different activities. The first activity is the election of officers. The second activity is to set the board meeting dates for next year. And then the third activity is to appoint the board liaisons. So let's take one activity at a time and move forward. With regard to the election of officers, last April, the board approved the president, the vice president for 2-year terms. So the 24-25 school year would be the second year of the 2-year terms. So it's not necessary to vote for those officers. The 2 officers that you need to vote for tonight would be the board secretary, where Julie serves currently and is willing to do so again. And then due to my retirement, you need to appoint or vote for Jackie Bogan to replace me as treasurer, and that's based on her job description. So with that being said, I would encourage Mr. Gonzalez to start with the nominations for board secretary.
Okay, so at this point, I will now ask for nominations for the board secretary. And I'll go ahead and nominate Julie Orfel.
You look so excited when you.
So we need a second for the
Someone
nomination.
second. And roll call. And a roll call, please.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
All right, congratulations. Ms. Orfel has now been voted the board secretary, 7-0. Okay, so at this point, I will now ask for nominations for the treasurer.
I nominate Jackie Bogan as treasurer as of July 1st. Would that be correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, July 1st, 2024.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
All right, someone send her an edible arrangement. We've all nominated her the treasurer of the Kaneland Board of Education secretary.
Very good, thank you. The second task then is to determine the board calendar. In the board memo, Dr. Layton has put all of the dates that he is recommending. The dates are consistent with this year's dates being on Monday. There are 2 Wednesdays that are needed because Monday holidays, that is Columbus Day, making the board meeting on Wednesday, October 16th, and Wednesday, May 28th, due to Memorial Day. I believe that the board wants to discuss 2 things. One is Monday still the recommended day of the week or night of the week, and 2, the time in which to start the board meetings. Please confirm that it will be 7 p.m. We did go through the calendar of events for this year, and we can see from the calendar that Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are typically busy nights for other district type of activities. So it would be the administrative recommendation to continue on Mondays, but of course we would defer to the board because it is your meeting, and then we would reschedule the typical activities that are on that night of the week. With regard to the 7 p.m. start time, the administration is flexible and will defer to the board for your preference.
Okay, so discussion?
Yep.
So I guess the first question is, does anyone have a recommendation for a different night of the week to have our board meetings?
I've recommended Wednesday night, but at the same time, I don't want that to upheave everything else that's been going on different nights of the week for however many years. Yeah.
Okay.
But I do like a Wednesday night board meeting.
Okay.
So.
Anyone else? No? Okay. Yeah, for consistency, I feel like it's been that way for a long time. Scheduling's around that. I appreciate, Ryan, the suggestion. but my opinion as well. So, do we have to make a separate, or do we talk about time and then do them all in one?
Why don't you do date and time all in one on this one?
Okay, so the second is the 7 p.m. start time.
I'd be willing to start at 6. Earlier the better, since we're here later.
Yeah. Oh, yes, Dr. Lawler? So, Dr. Lawler, real quick, did you have any opinion on the meeting night? Forgive me, I should ask. Would 6 p.m. Work for you?
Yep, 6 is great.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone objects?
I would say 7. Everyone else is 6. Then I'm just gonna get voted down.
Well, so
it's just you can't schedule things during your work day and then you have to start at 6 instead of 7. So it's just pushing it back. Because I mean, no one's scheduling anything at 10 p.m. But you might schedule something at 5:30 or
Sure.
6.
Now, let me ask you, if we did start this, when would it, we're talking about the following year calendar, correct? So it would begin with that July 29th, 2024 meeting date is what we're voting tonight? Rather than immediately, rather than next meeting?
That's what I would recommend based on the information.
Okay, okay. So, any further discussion? Dr. Lawler?
Like I said, I'm flexible, but if Edmund can't do it, I mean, we don't
I
need
can
to
do
change.
it. I'm just saying it. I think it'd be better.
Okay.
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 I feel strongly either way.
Okay. So unless there's any further discussion, I'll go ahead and make a motion that the Board of Education approve the calendar for the 2024-2025 Board of Education calendar, forgive me, with Monday night being our primary meeting night unless there's a holiday, and change it to a 6 p.m. start time rather than a 7 p.m. start time.
Beginning July.
Beginning July 29th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
And a roll call, please.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Aye.
Mr. McCauley,
Aye.
Dr. Lawler,
Aye.
Mr. Cook,
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons,
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner,
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 7-0. We are going to change the start time, and the meeting night will be the same.
Thank you. We have one more task with regard to reorganizing the board, and that is to appoint board liaisons. There are 2 committees that need liaisons. That is our Health Insurance Committee and our Kaneland Hall of Fame. Please note that there are other committees that all board members are welcome to attend, including the Citizens Advisory Committee, the Finance Advisory Committee, and the Facilities Planning Committee. But at this time, we want to appoint liaisons for Kaneland Hall of Fame and the Health Insurance Committee.
Okay.
I'm currently on insurance and I would be more than willing to stay on it for another year.
Okay.
I'm on Hall of Fame. I'd stay on.
Okay. Does anyone feel strongly about stepping into that role, just to give everyone the opportunity? It's fun. It's educational. Okay. With no discussion being heard, I'd like to make a motion that we nominate Mrs. Simmons to be the Board of Education representative for the Health Insurance Committee, and Board Member Mankivsky to be the Board Member representative for the Hall of Fame Committee.
Move.
Second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cook,
Aye.
Mr. McCauley,
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Aye.
Dr. Lawler,
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski,
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner,
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Okay, passes 7-0. Congratulations, guys. Thank you very much. Honestly, it's a commitment, and we appreciate your work on it. So, is that it for that one?
That is. Thank you.
Okay, that's it for the 4th item of new business. So, we'll go ahead and move to the 5th item of new business, which is the discussion and approval of the Board of Education student representative for the 2024-2025 school year. Dr. Fuchs.
Thank you. Katie is our second student representative. This is our second year of the program. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to talk with the board to see if they want to continue the program. And if you would like to solicit any feedback from Katie, she is prepared to answer any questions or share any of her experiences. If we do that, Katie, I'd like to ask you to go to the microphone if the board is interested. The administration has found the board student representative to be a positive program, and so we would recommend that we continue. The interview process timeline is included in the board packet along with a position description and the procedure for applying. The first year of the program, we had one student apply, and that was Lindsay. And last year, we had 7 students apply, and Katie was selected. So if there are any questions or discussion, you're welcome to.
I would just move we continue the program.
Yeah.
Do you have talking points that you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, I'd like to take a minute to thank you
Yeah.
very much. You've been awesome this year, and appreciate. Hopefully, it's been a good experience for you. You've enjoyed it. Yeah, you know, procedurally, I don't see any issue unless you guys have any questions, anything you want to change. I'd like to see the role expand a little more, but you know, I think.
Well, I think that's the only thing. I think in your exit interview, maybe you can give us some feedback at that time of what you think you could do or what we could do for next year to kind of expand it or change it or morph it or however that may look from your perspective and experience. And that's all I'd ask.
Sure, I agree. Dr. Lawler, anything?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask Katie what she thinks we could do better, how we could better utilize her, right? Like, what else could we do that would be useful from her point of view?
She's stepping up to the microphone.
Can you rephrase the question?
Can you rephrase it one more time, Dr. Lawler?
Sure, Katie. So I'm just interested, how can we better utilize the student ambassador role? What else could we use you for? I mean, I love having you come and talk to us about what's going on. I love that you're there, but what else can we use you for?
I know, like, I have, like, not a limited availability, but mainly, like, just for this meeting. But, like, outside of that, like, I went to, like, one CIC meeting, and I just found that interesting, being able to give, like, my feedback from that. So maybe being able to go to more of that, like, outside meetings, if they ever arise or ever needed. That's basically what I would say for that, though.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity because I know you were also involved weren't you involved in the interview committees for the new superintendent role? So yeah, I think the trouble is that being a high school student, you know, we can't expect you to go, but maybe we could encourage, you know, from administration standpoint to attend those meetings. And I personally would like to see, not that I've had any problem with what you've done, but I'd personally like to see more than just these are the updates in sports and the plays. You know, the whole point is we wanted a connection with the students beyond, you know, the verbiage. So any suggestions you'd have and any tutelage you'd pass on to the future, you know, representative would be great.
And thank you for talking to other students and being that ambassador for us. I know Dr. Layton, there was a couple times he had asked you to share some of, you know, what you've asked other students and what they've said. So you've given us that voice too. So appreciate those moments too. So I don't know if those are things that we could do more often. Ask, you know, if students felt like they needed a better voice here, and if there's maybe other questions we could have asked for you to ask them. So yeah, think about that kind of stuff too, maybe.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Katie. Again.
Oh.
Did you have something, Dr. Lawler?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Katie. Sorry I'm not there in person, but it takes incredible courage and incredible poise to go up there each night and talk in front of all these people. It's something that I personally struggle with, so I'm always impressed that you can do it. So kudos to you for being awesome.
Correct, so skip this.
That part, okay. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion that the Board of Education approves the student representative program for the 2024-2025 school year.
So moved.
Second.
And a roll call, please.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Coach.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 7-0. The student representative to the Board of Education has been approved.
So, the next item of new business is the new J6, which was originally H6, pulled from the consent agenda. So, Dr. Fuchs?
I need to hear from the board member that pulled the item.
Yeah, I've been going through the bids and I just have some concerns. Who is the incumbent on this contract?
The incumbent right now is Shank Custom Builders.
Okay. And what's their performance been like?
It's been fine.
Okay. On the, it's for a 3-year contract, is it not?
That is correct.
And on the first year of the contract, the low bidder would be
Shank.
would be Shank, but on the subsequent years, it would be American Tree and Turf.
That is correct. And we use the 3-year total. So over 3 years of the contract, American Tree and Turf is the lowest.
Okay. And on snow events up to 3 inches, who would be the lowest? Wouldn't that be Shank?
Yes, it is. But if you look at the bottom corner of
Yep.
each one,
Yep.
that's the amount that we use because we have no way to determine how much actual snow we get. And so we use that number by using a multiplier for the bid tabulation, and that's clear in the bid specifications.
Okay.
So is the decision purely monetary in selecting this new bidder over the incumbent?
Yes, it is because that's the law.
Okay.
Yeah, because if we send it out for bid, whatever the lowest bid is, we have to take. per
Unless
law.
if we have a legal reason not to
Yeah.
accept it.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. So even if the
Okay.
board said, hey, we like what he's been doing, we can't. We have to have a legal justification for taking anything over that.
That is correct.
All right. One last question. On if we encounter a snowmageddon, defined as greater than 12 inches of snow, that reverts back to the hourly rate here on the final page.
Yes, it does.
And Shank is pretty much up and down the lowest hourly rate, except for the John Shield sidewalks.
And salt spreading.
Yes, 10 deaths.
So, in the bid specifications, we clearly state that the hourly rates will not be used to determine the low bidder. They're only used in the event of a, snow, event greater than 12 inches.
So one of my concerns, Dr. Fuchs, is that, we have someone that we've used, we know what they're capable of, what they've been doing, versus someone new who comes in. What happens if after a year we find out that this new vendor can't meet the expectations we need, or is not able to adequately staff the people to perform the job?
Yep. If they cannot fulfill the contract, we have written notice that we have to give them, and we cancel that contract and we go back out to bid next spring.
Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, well, since we pulled it, we have to then make a motion to approve it, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so at this time, I'll entertain a motion that we, the Board of Education approves, American Tree and Turf to provide the district snow removal services for 2024, 2025 through the 2026, 2027 winter snow seasons, using the rates for each snow event and hourly rates submitted in the base bid. Second. Roll call, please.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. The Board of Education approves the contract. Okay, so it is now time for the Board and Superintendent report, and I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Brooks.
Alrighty, I have quite a list. First of all, the FPC, that's the Facilities Planning Committee, we will be meeting on, I believe it's Wednesday, April 16th. The CAC met on March 14th, and they will meet again on April 18th. And then our Kaneland Connect's final meeting for the school year will be April 23rd at KMAC. There will be a special education resource and craft fair on April 27th here at Harder Middle School. The resource fair will be in the morning from 9 to 12. And then the craft fair goes on till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Dr. Kurt Rolling, our future superintendent, will be touring our Kaneland school buildings on April 24th and May 7th. On April 24th, he will visit starting at 7:30 in the morning, Kaneland High School, Fox Valley Career Center, Blackberry Creek Elementary, John Stewart Elementary, and Kipla. Basically, from 7:30 to 1 p.m., he will visit the schools in the north. On Tuesday, May 7th, he will begin at noon here at Harder and go to Shields, then McDowell, and he'll land back here for a reception from 5 to 7 p.m. We will be inviting all members of our Kaneland community to attend the reception from 5 to 7 here at Harder. We are also inviting all board members to join on any of the tours and or the reception.
I believe on the night of the reception, there's a play here, correct? Or there's some sort of event as well at the middle school.
Okay.
We'll have to re-highlight that, but I think we structured that reception around there being an event here at the middle school. So if you're here for the reception, go see the play. If you're here for the play, go to the reception. You're
Love
already
it.
here.
Double dipping. That's perfect. Thank you. All right. I wanted to also let you know that the Educator of the Year banquet for Kane County will be on May 3rd this year. And so if you want tickets for that, you need to let Julie know by April 12th. That's this Friday at noon. Otherwise, she has to give those tickets back to the ROE. So if you're planning to attend, please get in touch with Julie by Friday at noon. We have 4 nominees this year. We have Bradley Staker here at Harder Middle School as the nominee for Middle School Teacher of the Year. We have Luke Al-Sakira, our Kaneland High School Early Career Educator nominee. Myself as the District School Administrator, Educator of the Year. And then Elsa Glover, our Harder Middle School Student Support Personnel Educator of the Year. So if you're interested in supporting any of the nominees and would like to attend, the banquet takes place on Friday, May 3rd at the Q Center in St. Charles and begins around 5:30 p.m. I wanted to let board members know that the Health Insurance Committee met last week, and I'll be bringing the health insurance renewal for next year to the board meeting on April 29th. And it looks like our increase will be around 6 to 6.5%. Next is Katie.
Katie, take it away.
Good evening. As soon as students got back from spring break, end of the year activities quickly started approaching. Prom tickets are on sale now until Wednesday, April 17th. The theme is Las Vegas this year, with tickets on sale for $77.77. The prom is being hosted at Embassy Suites in Naperville from 6 to 10 p.m. on Saturday, April 27th. From Friday, April 19th to Saturday, April 20th, Kaneland Student Council is hosting Relay for Life on the football field. This overnight event raises money for cancer research, prevention, and patient care. Along with walking the track, there will be games, a food truck, and movies. Every group wanting to stay overnight must have an adult over the age of 21. For sports updates, girls varsity softball beat Glencoe 12-0. For the boys' first outdoor meet this season at Batavia, they had 4 event wins and 3 top 50 performances. Boys varsity tennis placed 4th overall in their set of matches later in the week. Boys varsity lacrosse beat Dundee Crown 15-8, and girls varsity soccer beat Sterling 7-0. Girls varsity and junior varsity track placed ace at the Willowbrook Invitational as well. Unfortunately for us, girls fresh softball fell to South Elgin 17-2, and girls junior varsity soccer fell to Plainfield Central 1-0. Over the past weekend, the Kaneland Crier competed in sectionals. Unlike many IHSA sectional sports events, select Crier students had to write, design, broadcast, podcast, or take pictures, depending on their event category. Select graphic students went to the Graphic Communications Student of the Year competition. And with that, congratulations to Cassie C., Stacy L., and Sarah T. for winning that competition. Along with that, Sarah T. also won the Individual Portfolio Challenge. For upcoming dates, the senior survey is due Sunday, April 14th to have your senior picture, baby picture, and senior quote that will be shown at graduation. Thank you. That is all I have for tonight.
Katie, thank you, and thank you for staying late.
Thanks, Katie.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Any
That
board
it?
members, yeah?
Oh, any board members? Anything to report? No?
Any topics?
Yeah, so next up is topics for future agendas.
Yeah, I would like to. Based on the situation right now, I know that the track is a hot topic, and it's a topic that needs to be assessed, taken care of immediately. Just to reiterate again, we had a student broke his wrist. The track has become a liability. As we spoke last year about the same topic, we discussed that the track would be a liability. Well, it's happened. There's been rumors of possible litigation. Based on the disclaimer that we have on our budget, it is important for the board to know that if something should happen between now and when these projects are able to be completed, the administration may need to request that emergency repair replacement be made. I would like to bring this forward again for a vote in regards to the parking lot that replaced it last year. And I would like to have those funds, see what the rest of the board members feel about it, to vote on it. Recommend that we get 3 bids for 7 lanes, completely refurbished, not 8, but 7, that we discuss this and bring this up again to try and allocate the funds and put the parking lot on hold.
Okay, so at this point, we need we need a consensus, right? Or
Yeah.
okay,
Consensus.
so we need a consensus just to discuss it. We're not approving anything, but it's consensus. Okay, and Dr. Lawler, virtual or phone? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Yeah, thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Okay, 7-0. Thank you. Any other topics at this time? Everyone good? Dr. Lawler, you're good?
I don't really know how it ended. Sorry, there was a lot of confusion at the vote. What did we say was going to happen in terms of bringing forward a budget and student numbers for Kipla? Did we come to a consensus on that?
So
ended by directing administration, we didn't give a definitive timeline, but directing administration to come back with both budget numbers and an adequate head count that would justify adding a 9th and 10th grade, as I understand it, for the 2025-2026 school year.
Okay. I don't know if we can make a second or do a topic, but I would like to have that happen before the end of the summer, before July. I don't know if we can make that a new topic or something.
Would that be considered a new topic?
Who would just direct?
Escalating. Yeah, I mean, that'd be just directing, or do we have to, is that?
Let me work with Dr. Layden to try to get that on the schedule, before July. I don't.
Okay. Did you hear that, Aaron?
Yep, I did. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Okay, we're gonna move to the second portion of public comments. Keeping in mind the same parameters as earlier. And again, we'll have that 3-minute hard stop. So at this point, we'll go with Sheila Albano first.
Thank you very much. Sheila Albano from Elburn, alumni, many other things. But tonight I'm not here for any of the things that I've done or been through in this school, except for the fact that I'm a taxpayer. And I'm an extremely angry taxpayer. I agree with Mr. McCauley, and I want the board to reverse your vote. So the money spent on the bus parking lot will be applied to the full replacement of the track minus any work on the football field or surrounding entities. And I want that vote brought and made immediately. When this vote was taken last year, we were all told the track patching was safe and would last the 2 years until a referendum could be passed. We were also told the bus drivers were people too, and they were endangered by some mysterious indentations in the lot that sometimes iced over. I've actually walked that lot, and I've looked for those spots, and I couldn't find anything different from any other lot. I've talked to bus drivers. They don't know what you're talking about. You were asked if you wanted to spend $600,000 on a track that could be torn out in 2 years later after a successful referendum, despite Mr. McCauley asking over and over what the plan would be if that referendum did not pass. The only thing that occurred was to push the track back until 2026. There's still no plan for what to do with that track if the referendum doesn't pass, and you don't even know if you're going to have a referendum this year. What no one said that night was that the parking lot would also be torn up if the referendum passed. It was to become a retention pond. Here is what else some you apparently do not know. The track was never truly safe, and we all told you that, and that someone would get hurt, and now they have. We are beyond lucky that the young man only broke his wrist and hand. He fell vertically, not on a hurdle, not touching a hurdle, but when his bike caught in the patching that we all said was awful, and it caused him to go almost vertical into the ground. The fact that he didn't break his neck, his back, that he's not a paraplegic, that he's not a quadriplegic, or frankly, that he's not dead, is just luck. I am beyond the fact, okay, it's just luck. We are all really lucky we don't have to live with that for the rest of our lives. And that his family doesn't have to live with anything more than a broken wrist and a broken hand, which is affecting his track season. I'd like to know why you weren't told about the meeting between the administration, the track coach, and the engineer. It took place last fall after your track coach came here to talk to you about the unsafe situation of his track. You weren't invited in any way, shape, or form, or apparently told that it even existed.
Mrs. Albano, your time is up.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't even know that.
Thank you.
I apologize.
Thank you for your comments.
I want to vote. Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have David Anderson.
Thank you for your time. I know it's getting late. Same topic around the track. David Anderson, Elburn, Illinois, of course. I have 2 children, one in middle school, one at the high school, and one at the high school is in track. Just want you guys to kind of consider the track environment, kind of related to your homes. I don't know if you have cracked tiles in your bathroom or loose tiles. Ever stepped out in the middle of the night when it's dark and fallen? Carpet that's loose as you walk into a room and you trip over it. I've done it. I know a lot of people probably have, and those things can cause injuries. Now imagine you're moving 10 times faster. You hit these obstacles and you don't have a place to catch yourself. You break a wrist. You fall over a hurdle. Or like my son had happened to him, he got a spike caught on the runway and got a pole vault to the eye. Very luckily, he did not damage his eye. He had a very bad black eye for about 2 weeks. Luckily, it caught him on the outside of the optical and did not damage his eye. Had it damaged his eye, it would have really greatly affected the rest of his life. He would not be pole vaulting anymore, which he does enjoy, but he wouldn't be driving now. Who knows how it's going to affect jobs that he may have in the future. A lot of that's just because the track facility. He was running fine before, but he put on his spikes, which you need to do if you want to excel at a sport like track. You need to be faster. To do that, you need to wear spikes. It was his first day with spikes, got it caught, and that's when the pole caught him in the face. So I just really ask you to reconsider how you're spending money. The track is more of a safety thing, and I really wish you would put the kids' safety ahead of the welfare of vehicles. So kids before cars, please. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, next up we have David Nosh. Forgive me. Nosh. Nosek.
Nosek.
Oh, forgive me. Nosek.
David Nosek. I'm with Auburn. And I've had 4 kids come throughout the years. They've been running for the last 9 years. And for the last 9 years, they've been running on the most decrepit, most dangerous track in Illinois, it's my understanding. If someone has any better understanding, listen. I've remained silent for 9 years. I've been told it's a funding problem for 9 years. I no longer believe it's a funding problem. I'm convinced it's a misplaced priority problem. We have a pretty new water tower, we have a pretty new parking lot coming, but we don't have a track these kids can run on safely. And you guys are stewards of our tax dollars. And we're asking for your stewardship to keep our students safe, our children safe. Can there be a greater priority? How much more are we willing to risk to expose our children? How much more liability do we want to expose to the taxpayers? I got a kid who's pretty damn good. He's got potential scholarship opportunities, but I don't want to see him get hurt. On those scholarships, so we need to think about that stuff.
Thank you for your comments. Next up, Sarah Nosek.
Is there an option if I give my time to
We've done it before, and I think, yeah, that would be okay with that.
As so many have brought up, I'd like to know why you aren't going into closed session tonight to talk about the situation with the student who is injured, why you don't seem to know the ins and outs of the possible lawsuit that we all know they're bringing, and part of the reason they're bringing it is because they felt so disrespected this past week by their interaction with your administration. I'd like to know why you don't know the track surfaces company in Elburn was contacted a week ago Thursday and asked to give the administration a full budget on a complete replacement of that track. You don't need 3 bids. You already know what it's going to cost because they have it. Apparently, they're not sharing it with you. I got that myself. No track coach, nobody else found it out. I did. So I don't want anybody blowback to go back on Andy Drendel or Andy Franklin or anybody else in the track program because they had nothing to do with it. As a taxpayer, I do not want to have my money spent in in lawyer fees. I don't want it spent on extensive raises in our insurance rates, because whether or not you win the lawsuit, the insurance rates are going to go up because you have an unsafe facility. Our kids are practicing 2 teams, 100 plus kids on one half of a track, because that's the only place they compete that's safe. And they are going out and competing and coming home with PRs and winning track meets. They have doing that all while running in the hallways, running on cement, no thank you, field house. And now they don't even have a track they can practice on the entire damn track. Your runways are awful. It cannot maintain this way. And if you don't get it fixed this summer, it will not be fixed till the following summer. And next spring, you still won't have a track, because it has to happen this summer. Resurfacing isn't going to do it. You already know that. You've already been told that. You have the power. You are in charge. We told you what we want, and you get to tell them what to do. Please grab that power and take it. It is beyond time that somebody did.
Thank you for your comments. Mike, you're gonna have to forgive me with the last name.
Grobler? Thank you.
Okay, so my son Manny goes to the Ignite Academy. He's in 8th grade. So I'm pro carrying it to 9th grade next year, right? Duh. You guys are going to kill the program by delaying it. My observation today is you guys can't make a decision, or you have a hard time making a decisions. You're going to have the same problem next year, right? I mean, it's not going to happen. So, and I also know, like some of you were going, well, how do I know where to send my kid? Be a parent and decide. My God, the other thing is, you guys are forgetting that there's some costs. Manny has an IEP. For the past 2 years, he's been in a residential program. You guys know who pays for the IEP? Do you know how much it would be to send him away? Okay, it's a good chunk of money. Manny was not going to school before he went to the residential program. He came back, he's going to the Ignite Academy. Not every day, but 4 days out of 5 is pretty damn good for him. He stops going next year. When he goes to a big high school where he freaks out, guess what? I'm going to pull that IEP and we're sending him to another residential program to get help. Okay, and that's going to cost you a lot of money. And I'm guessing Manny's probably not the only IEP kid in there who's going there because it feels right for him. So, I ended early. You can have your minute.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, the Board of Education is scheduled for a closed session to discuss the Illinois Open Meetings Act, Section 2C2, Section 2C10, where there will be no action taken following the session. Therefore, after we go into vote to go into closed session, the recording of tonight's meeting will be concluded. At this time, I will entertain a motion that we go into closed session to discuss Illinois Open Meetings Act 2C2 and 2C10 at 10:17 p.m. Second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Makivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Did I miss somebody? Who did I miss?
No, you're good.
Did you see me? Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I got you, Mr. McCauley.
Okay,